Hello and welcome. Let's make sure everything's working. I switched some stuff up, got some new headphones. My screen brightness is at about 1,000 apparently. Let's get that fixed up. Welcome. Today we're doing a little bit different of a stream than we normally do, and I think it'll be kind of fun. As you can tell, the background's a little bit changed up. I got some so quick. Oh, you bastard. Um, I was just talking about that quick before we start the stream. I was just talking about this with a friend of mine. You guys know him as Max Knight in the chat. Um, and we were talking about the fact that it is, unless you're using like an Apple computer, why is changing the brightness on a monitor so difficult? It's never intuitive. You need 7 different buttons to do it. It's never good. It's never, it's never good. It's just annoying and difficult for no reason. I'm gonna lower this. So here's what's gonna happen today. Today we're learning everything that we can about demonic packs. Okay, I've never done a leagues before. I don't know what leagues is. I've never really played any other MMOs. I don't know what to expect going into this. And I was going to go in completely blind, but I didn't like that idea. So we're not doing that. I'm going to learn as much as I can. And I think the reason that I don't want to go in completely blind is that I truly don't know a ton about RuneScape. I love the game and I'm very curious about learning more about the game as I go on, but I don't know everything that there is to know. I'm going to be facing a lot of bosses over the next 8 weeks that I've never faced before. I don't even know, like, until I looked it up, I didn't even know what dropped Torva. So how am I supposed to build something and have fun doing this when I don't really know what I need to know? So today we're going to go over everything leagues related, from the absolute basics of what leagues is to finer details of how we're going to do late game builds and things like that. And I'm really going to count on you guys to tell me when I'm doing something or saying something that just makes absolutely no sense. Like that's just not how that works. So don't hesitate to hop in the chat and just tell me when I'm wrong. Speaking of chat, Greg, hello, good sir. I am welcoming you. I don't know how English works today, so if I mess it up, just bear with me. Uh, but yeah, welcome. I'm looking forward to some of your feedback on this because you always have some good things to say that I didn't really expect. So that's nice. Also, I think I might need to lower the brightness on that light. We're going to figure that out later. As you can tell, we've got a little bit different of a setup today. Chat is going to show up over here on the right where my cursor disappears, so above my camera. We've got RuneScape here on the bottom left, and that's just going to be me doing fire making because we are dangerously close to 99. We're at 93. We'll be at probably 95 by the end of stream today. And so we're just going to let that passively run in the background. If that volume is weird or getting on your nerves or something, just let me know. We'll change it up. So, leagues. Leagues is a little crazy to me. Leagues is like Iron Man on steroids. So it starts tomorrow morning. If you're here in America, if you're in like Greenwich time, it starts at like 11:30 in the morning. It starts at almost noon. If you're over here in America, like in Central Standard Time, it starts at 5:30 in the morning. So good luck to me, right? I am probably going to go live at about 10 a.m. The reason I'm not doing it exactly at 5:30 a.m. is because apparently there's always like server issues in the beginning and things like that, and I have no interest in waking up at 5:30 in the morning to play when I know that most of you guys are going to get on during work and things like that and stuff like that. So I'm just going to do a relatively normal stream time. I will get on early, and tomorrow's going to be a long stream. I want to get as much done as a base for this account as possible. I want to learn as much as possible. I want to do everything that I can. So speaking of learning, a lot of today is going to be me reading through stuff and then looking at chat and seeing what you guys have to say about it and just learning as much as we can. So without any further ado, let's hop into it. Uh, one thing that I did learn about leagues, so all players are Ironmen and you begin with accelerated XP rate of 5 times. That's fantastic, okay? Run energy is unlimited, and some quests and achievement diaries will be automatically completed, including rune mysteries and druidic rituals. So I know it'll say it later, but you start out with 3 herb lore and 5 rune crafting. So, and then you're going to get levels like crazy once you're started. Um, Pets obtained during leagues will automatically be unlocked in the demonic leagues as well. So if you did some previous leagues, you will get everything you had from the previous one. And you'll also have certain other features, like so if you unlocked bank upgrades or something in the previous leagues, those do carry over. So that's really nice. I do like that. Apparently, the last one was in Misthalin, which is like the Varrock, Lumbridge, dig site area. That's all Misthalin. This one is starting in Varlamore, and so they're really doubling down into the Varlamore content for this one. Let's make sure that we're still you know, burning logs over here. We do want to try to AFK this pretty well. So it's all going to start in Varlamore. You're going to start in Varlamore, and then your first unlock is going to automatically be Karamja. And then there's 7 other areas that you get to unlock, or 8 other areas that get to unlock, but you can only choose 3 of them. So you're only going to have 5 total areas that you can unlock. And that's kind of what I want to go through today, because there's a lot that I don't know about bosses in the game and where things are and what stores are where and things like that, because I haven't done an Iron Man yet. So there's a lot of this that I don't know or understand. I'm excited about this because I am going to learn a boatload that's going to prep me for Iron Man, which, as you guys know, that's my ultimate kind of goal for the channel, is to be doing an Iron Man, a group Iron Man account in the future. Um, so in this one, the content that's different from the last leagues to this one is Royal Titans. So we do have access to the Twin Flame Staff and 2 new prayers. Yama, so we have Oathblade armor and a whole bunch of new potions and stuff. We have Doom, Crab, there's an Arcan Blade, we have Veiled Totems, and there's a whole bunch of buffs for mini games in this leagues, so that's going to be awesome. They've also done in the Summer Sweep Up, there's a whole bunch of different changes to elemental damages, which, if you haven't looked into this yet, a whole bunch of the class modifications and stuff for this whole leagues is about damage modifications and stuff based on elemental weaknesses, and we'll go through that later. It's gonna be pretty awesome. I spent all of last night till about 1 o'clock in the morning doing like late game setups of like what can min max and what weapons might I have and things like that. It was a lot of fun. Um, so yeah, you start out. We're gonna start out in Yama's lair, and with an exit to Civitas, right? And then you'll be unlocked in Varlamore. Misthalin will be completely inaccessible. You will not be able to go to Varrock. You will not be able to go to Dig Site. You will not be able to go to Lumbridge. So, no Brutus for you. Sorry. You'll start off with a Drayman Staff because Zenaris and the Abyssal area are unlocked with all regions. So you will have Zenaris, Abyssal, Karamja pretty quickly, and Varlamore. That's your kind of starting areas. So when you're thinking about skills and stuff like that, think about what you can unlock in those areas. I'm not going to go through some of these in too much detail, but uh, all the shops basically have a non-depleted stock. Even if there's only 3 in stock, it's just going to restock instantly. So you can just keep buying and buying and buying and buying and buying. That's going to be important later, so keep that in mind. Uh, there's a lot of new stuff that is introduced to a lot of the stores to make it a little bit more friendly for this pack. So, like for example, you know, box traps and snares and stuff like that are available in certain stores. Certain weapons are available that aren't typically available at the blacksmith. I know the Fortis blacksmith, you can repair like your blood moon armor and stuff there. Here's the really big things. Farming ticks occur every minute rather than every 5 minutes. So everything's going to farm 5 times faster, which I think is going to be cool. Run energy never depletes naturally, so it can get depleted like an Abyssal Whip spec where it steals your stuff away. It can be depleted that way. All clue scrolls drop as clue boxes or scroll boxes, and the clues progress. The clue progress saved between clues. I don't really understand that because I don't do a lot of clues. Maybe you guys can tell me in the chat what the hell that means. I don't know. All Slayer Masters assign the same tasks, limited to the areas that are unlocked. So the Slayer Master doesn't matter anymore. And there's a whole bunch of cool unlocks for Slayer and multipliers and stuff for Slayer. So we'll talk about that in a second. The tutor in Yama's lair will sell max capes. Sailing is not included in this, so there will be no sailing. I kind of like that because I didn't want to have to worry about maxing a skill I've never worked on before, so that's going to be nice. The increased spawn rate of implings, increased rare implings, so that's cool. The league-specific version of Yama's lair will allow level 1 agility training, or allow agility training from level 1 using the stepping stones. And you get increased XP. So that'll be cool. So you can start from your agility training straight from Yama's lair, which is where you're going to start. Some enemies, such as cows and hill giants, will respawn more frequently. That's good, especially if you get the transmutation relic. We'll talk about the relics later. But if you can start with that, and then you can actually use that. I'll just give a little bit of a spoiler if you don't know. You can take cow hides and then just use a spell to turn them into dragon hides, which will make certain things really cool. Um, Echo bosses. So here's where things start to get pretty interesting and where I was like, holy. Um, Apparently there were Echo bosses in the previous Raging Echoes League, right? But they're going to be brand new bosses with brand new rewards and stuff like that. Um, in addition to that, I thought this was really cool. So this one here, I know it's highlighting, it's probably small on your screen, so I'll read it. Chambers of Zarek, Theater of Blood, Tombs of Damascus. They all have significantly buffed drop rates and difficulty. So they're going to be harder, but the drop rates are going to be, it's like 5 to 8 times depending on where you are in the game progression. TOA and Theater of Blood will provide uniques to all players in the raid if any player obtains one. So group stuff is going to be insane, especially so it's increased drop rate. If one person gets it, everybody gets it, and it's on an increased drop rate. So the idea of getting like full Torva in something like this is very possible. So when we talk about some of the late game stuff that we want to build and some of the armor setups and stuff we want to have to do, that'd be really cool. Greg, it means you do 2 steps and drop the clue. No one will start from step 2. Next one will start from step 2. Oh, wow. So if you have a crappy 3rd step, you just grab the next one and keep going. That's cool. I like that, especially when it comes to certain. I've never been a big clue person, and I think during this I do want to try some clues. So that'll be cool. Thank you for that, Greg. I told you guys I'm gonna learn so much from you guys today. It's gonna be insane. Um, Twisted Bow, Scythe of Vitor, and Tunic and Shadow are available from all 3 raids. So it's not just one raid for each one of them. You can get those things at all 3 of the different raids, which is awesome. Wilderness bosses do not require the Wilderness Medium Diary. Zulrah has no damage cap. Huh? So no more 50 waiting on that. Like we can just hit them for 100. And there are some setups that are gonna make Zulrah just cake to finish. So I'm excited for that. Soul Reaper Axe drops from every Desert Treasure 2 boss, so that's cool. Okay, items that drop as components that require multiple regions to create a usable item will drop as a finished item. And we'll talk about that because we're going to talk about some of the loot from each area. One thing I want to figure out today is what areas I might want to unlock. Because you can only unlock 3 after Karamja and Vargamor. So I want to see what I might want to unlock. And I think that's going to be based on what drops we can get. Because then you think about, okay, well, I'm going to be camping these things to get these drops. So then I need to have these relics and these upgrades to the account. So you kind of have some synergy between all the different parts of the thing. And how am I going to skill and get resources and do all that other stuff? So I think that's important. Um, Nihil shards drop in an increased quantity from Nex. Vorkath directly drops the Ava's assembler instead of his head. And that's true with a lot of stuff. Like the Avernic Defender drops instantly, it doesn't drop as a hilt. Um, and then Dazana's quiver has ammo saving ability by default. Auto completed quests. I'm not going to read through those, but it's all the most important ones. It's anything that unlocks um, most bosses and most areas. So Fairy Tale, you have fairy rings right off the bat. Moons will be unlocked right off the bat. Desert Treasure 2 and Dragon Slayer 2 bosses will be right off the bat. Everything, well, Dragon Slayer 2 is unlocked when you unlock that area, but it'll be cool. The biggest thing for this that I had a whole bunch of questions about this in the beginning, and I was like, I don't understand leagues, and here's why. Um, you recommend looking at the relics before the bosses. I have looked at so that's kind of what we're going to do. I'm going to go through tasks first, very roughly through tasks. There's like 600 something tasks. We're not going through all of them. We're going to roughly go through the tasks, and I'm going to keep that up based on areas so that as I say, hey, what if we unlock this area, then we can look at the tasks and say, okay, how many points can we get really quickly, that kind of thing. But also, I want to show this. This is, it's called runeleagues.com, and it's basically a guide for your first 1,200 points. It's an interactive map. You complete the thing, you move on to the next one. So it's an interactive list of all the things that you want to do while you're there. I'm actually going to pull, give me a second. Why is that standing there for like a millisecond and then stopping? That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, hold on. I wanted to bring this over. There we go. Now you guys can see the whole screen. Okay, so for some reason, the chat box is not functioning properly. Or is it? Greg, when you talk, is it coming up over there or no? This is a whole different setup, so excuse the insanity here. Um, okay, so I wanted to talk about this because this is important. I'm going to be using this. I don't know anything about leagues. Yeah, it doesn't look like chat. Okay, so it is showing up. It's just really small. So it's damn near pointless, is what I'm hearing, is what I'm seeing. So we're going to turn the chat box off. We're going to get rid of this thing. Color block can get turned off. And then we're just going to pull that right back out to there. Good. Now you get to see more of the screen. Okay. So I'm going to use this to unlock as many of these tasks as possible and just do them. And what this does is get you to about 1,200 points, which will, that's the PAX planner. Where's the, there it is. Okay, so, and we're going to go through these relics in just a moment. But based on the tasks, that's how you unlock the tiers for the relics, and it's how you unlock other areas. Now, I don't know how many points you need for each of these. You might know that, um, but I don't know that. So we'll talk about that in a second. But um, I'm going to use this to get my first 1,200 points. I'm just going to go through this and probably do this in an hour or two at the very beginning of stream. I think by the time I get through that, I'll understand enough of what's going on that we'll decide at that point what we want to lean into. Do I want to get some early skilling out of the way so that we can get more resources? Do I want to, you know, go start doing Slayer because there's a lot of things that are locked behind high Slayer levels? What other tasks can I do that are going to unlock other relics? Do we want to relic hunt right off the bat? Things like that. So the tasks, I kind of organize them here by area. But I think real quick, I'm going to organize them by requirement. And we'll talk about that real quick. So a lot of them are skill based. They go between like 10 points and like 400 points. You see the point scales here on the side. And by the way, this is just on the wiki, the old school.runescape.wiki slash w/demonic packs. But go through here. So there's a bunch of them for agility. If you step over the stepping stones 666 times, you get 30 points. If you use, there's a whole bunch of other, agility things. If you get 99 agility, but you get 25 million experience, you get 200 more points. So a lot of these are just, you're going to get a ton of points by just having out maxed out skills and things like that. There's a whole bunch of them that are global, which are nice. And those are for equipping certain things. So rune weapon, addy weapon, mithril weapon, that there gives you 90. Sulfur blades. So if you go get those at a lower level, then you get some points there. And all of these points are used to unlock more stuff. Okay? So we're going to do as many of these as possible. And then I do think that I'm probably going to lean into construction relatively early, so we have a lot of teleports and stuff in the house. But I may not do that because there are a few relics that give you a whole bunch of teleport options. So we may not need to do that. Cooking, I think, is going to happen relatively easy, and we'll talk about why. Crafting, I think, will happen relatively easy. We'll talk about why. There's a whole bunch with equipping certain defensive things like weapons, types of armor, things like that. So we're going to rush through a whole bunch of levels in the beginning just because that's the nature of this game mode. And then we'll probably spend a whole day just equipping a whole bunch of stuff, buying it, equipping it, and selling it back so that we can unlock a ton of points. Hunter again has been increased, and your trap basically always works, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So that's going to be fun. Rune crafting, there's a bit of a cheat code there. We'll talk about it. Yeah, you get the tier 1 relic from the start, and we're gonna talk about those. So you get that. It's 600 points, I believe, to get the tier 2 relic, and then from what I heard, it's like 1,200 to get the next one, and then like 2,400 on top of that. I don't know for sure, and I'm probably definitely wrong on that. So you can see here, this is obviously pulling from my account, and I don't know if that'll upgrade, because I have the fire making level, but obviously I don't have that on that other account. So we'll see if that upgrades or if I'll have to change something on the wiki. But there's a whole bunch for fishing. There's a whole bunch for fletching. We're going to do a whole bunch of fletching at Veil Totems because I love Veil Totems. We'll talk about herb lore. There's a cheat code kind of built in for herb lore, and that's going to be really nice. It'll be easy to get a whole bunch of these points. Hunter, same thing. Hunter has just been sped up like crazy. They really want you to kind of lean into Hunter on this one. Magic is going to be a lot of fun. We're leaning heavily. I know for sure that I'm going to lean very heavily into Magic. Mining, there's certain ones like, mine an ore using a rune pickaxe. Um, there's also a relic that means that you don't have to use a pickaxe at all. So that'll be cool. Like we won't even need it, but we'll use it anyway. Um, and then obviously range and rune crafting and stuff like that. So a lot of these are really simple. There's a bunch of global ones, but they're also by area. So you can look through here and see, that's Varlamore, Wilderness, and it'll show over here on the side. And then these ones with the globe are all the global ones. So um, I would look through this. If you haven't already, look through this, get an idea of what you're going to do. But this Rune Leagues thing is the first thing that I'm going to do because it's just going to get me jumped right in and I'll know kind of what to do next. So now I want to look at the relics. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here because I really do want your feedback on this. There is a lot, like I said, that I don't know about RuneScape. There's a lot I don't know about Varlamore. There's a lot I don't know about the higher level bosses. And so what I think might be important here, I may be way off. So please pop it in the chat. Let me know when I'm being stupid. Um, okay, League's XP multiplier, 5 times, which is just crazy right off the bat. So you're going to get 5 times the XP right off the bat. Items from eligible sources will drop 2 times as common. Now I wanted to open this up. Eligible sources are basically all of the drops from certain bosses. So in Karamja and Asgarnia, Fremennik Province, basically everything from the Dagannoth Kings, drop rate is higher. Basically, all of the rare drops that we're going to be trying to hunt are going to be dropping faster. That eligible resources or eligible sources, keep that in mind because that drop rate goes up with the later relics, and that's going to be really cool. Farming ticks will occur every minute instead of every 5 minutes, which is the same as with Hunter. Mini game points received are boosted by 4 times. So if you want to go get, tithe farm and get your farming up really quickly in the beginning, it's going to happen 5 times as fast. Mastering mixology, if you want to get your herb lore up, super fast. Veil totems, going to be super fast. So I'm looking forward to that. Run energy never depletes. All clue skulls drop as stackable boxes, and then progress is saved between clues. Greg, you already told me what that means. They can go from step 2 to step 3 on a different one. That's really cool. And then you only receive clue steps that you can access within the unlocked region that you're in. So it's basically clue scrolls on easy mode. And I was considering doing this because I think it would be a lot of fun. Just do a boatload of clues. I'm not a big clue person, so it would force me to do something I don't necessarily like doing. Maybe I'll fall in love with it. Um, and plus, I think just opening up a bunch of caskets every day could be a good little content thing. So I'll consider it, but it's probably not happening. Okay, so your tier 1 relics. I like these. There's two that I think that, so as I go through these, I want to talk about it from 2 different perspectives. Because I know there's basically 2 different types of players. There's people like me that are full-time players. I play 8 to 12 hours a day, and I spend the rest of my time editing, and I don't really have anything else that gets in my way, right? I'm going to go for things that are going to get resources super fast, that I can put time into, and things like that. Other people are going to go for things that allow you to AFK for a really long period of time, right? And do things while you're offline and process things while you're offline. So we'll talk about the AFK person and the grinder, right? So with the AFK person, I think Endless Harvest is probably going to be the first one for anybody that wants to do things relatively AFK. If you're working from home and you want to click on something on the side and then not touch it for 30 minutes, this is the way to go. Toggleable effect is that all resources gathered will be sent to the bank. Perfect. You can endlessly gather from fishing spots, trees, mining rocks, even if they deplete after your initial interaction. You'll just keep getting it. Resources gathered from fishing, woodcutting, and mining are multiplied by 2, right? And XP is granted for all additional resources gathered. So you're getting twice the stuff and you're getting 5 times the XP, which means you're basically getting 10 times the XP rate for mining, woodcutting, and fishing, which is going to be great in the beginning because you're going to get a lot more resources. You'll level up faster, and even the tertiary skills that go from mining and woodcutting and fishing, like fletching, cooking, smithing, and even something like magic, if you're going to process certain things with magic, like logs into planks, smithing items, things like that. So that's a really good one if you want to be very AFK. I know that a lot of people know about the butler one as well, where the butler will do things for you while you're offline. this does, I think, work well with that one. I think doing both would be kind of silly, and we'll talk about why when we get to the butler part. Because if you're semi-actively playing, away from keyboard but still actively playing the game, I would just use that. But also, like, you can mine things like this, and then while you're offline, have the butler process it. So we'll talk about that in a second. The one that I think I'm going to get is Barbarian Gathering. Uh, Up to 3 different types of gathered items, wood, fish, and metallic ore and coal, right, can be placed in the knapsack, which has a total maximum capacity of 140, right? You can just have a dispose option, which will destroy certain things if you don't want. So let's say you're fishing for a whole bunch of stuff, and you only want certain types of fish like tuna and that kind of thing. You can drop certain ones. Uh, you become capable of chopping wood, mining rocks, and fishing with your bare hands without requiring any tools or bait. And your hands are the equivalent of the crystal version of any respective tools where those exist. So I'm basically fishing with a crystal harpoon with my hands. I'm basically using a crystal axe and a crystal pickaxe from the beginning, which is insane. Whenever you fish, woodcutting, or whenever you gain fishing, woodcutting, or mining XP while gathering, you will also receive an additional 10% XP in strength and agility. Now, I'm not as worried about agility, but strength is huge because I don't want to spend a ton of time training. I want to get right into fighting as soon as I can. So I want to do, skilling because I enjoy doing that. I enjoy skilling. But if I can do a whole bunch of skilling and then use that to train my strength and get the 99 strength really quickly, then other content becomes faster. Like, have 99 strength and then I train everything from in attack mode, and I have super high XP bonuses, and I'm at max stats pretty quickly. So I like that one a lot. On failing to mine a rock, catch a fish, or chop a tree, you will have a separate 50% chance to succeed instead. So just absolutely just cranking the speakers to 11. You'll get a whole bunch of stuff. You'll get it quickly. If you're actively going to play the game, this is the relic you want right out of the gate. You get everything faster. You get twice as many resources. You have a 50% chance of not failing even if you fail. You can put 140 items in your knapsack, and you get all crystal tools basically, and your hands work as crystal tools. So that I think is the ultimate one. I think that most people are going to choose one of these two items, right? The last one is abundance. So toggleable effect is coins generated will be put into your inventory. Cool. Uh, any all non-combat skills are permanently boosted by 10. Now I like this one if you want to get a really fast head start. And by the way, I do believe that you can respec this a few times throughout the game. I think it's like 3 respecs or something like that. I saw somewhere where you can respec, and we'll talk about that again if we stumble across it. But every time you receive an XP drop, you gain an additional 2 XP in the same skill. This is affected by the League passive XP multiplier. So it just bumps up by a certain percentage. Any XP that you're going to get, you get 2 additional XP, and it's got that bonus. And so this actually might be a really good one. There's a one later that allows you to choose a previous one. This might be a really good one later to double up on if you feel like doing that. For every XP gained, gain 2 times as many coins. So as you go to, and these can go to either your bank or your inventory where there's room, and toggle above. So
level up completed.
Hey, look at that. 94 fire making. I told you we were going to AFK fire making today. Love that. All right. Clan's probably got something to say about that. So for every XP that you gain, you get 2 times as many coins. So think about that. Every time you get 99 in a skill, you make 26 mil. And that's going to make it easier to do more. Yeah, the XP multiplier will gain every time you receive a new relic. So we'll talk about that. Even in the next one. So tier 2, it goes from ×5 to ×8. So keep that in mind as well. It's going to go up. And so you gain 2 additional XP for each one, and you gain 2 times as many coins for every XP that you gain. So if you do something that gets 10 XP, now you're getting 12, which means you're getting 24 coins. But keep in mind, that's multiplied by 5. So now you're getting 60 coins for something that takes 10 XP. And there's a lot of things you can do really quickly. If you're doing like a one-tick thing, you can make a boatload of money very quickly if you start with this one. I think that because there are certain methods that are going to be really easy to make money in the beginning, I don't think this is necessary. I don't not for me. I don't think I'm going to need a boatload of money. I think I'll be able to make enough money by myself. So we'll see. I may be completely wrong on that. So those are the tier 1 relics. Yeah, relics. I'm still like trying to memorize the name of these things. So 5 times XP multiplier right out of the gate. Any drops that you get from anything is 2 times more likely to get them. And then you either can go like full AFK mode, full resource gathering mode, or full money making mode. And I think those are so that there are, I think, 3 different major kind of pools you're going to hop into. But I think that most people are going to drop into these 2 right here. You're either an AFK person, you're working from home and you're just trying to get a whole bunch of resources as fast as possible and just click once every half hour, or you're like me and you're going to get in there and gather everything as fast as you possibly can and put in hours and hours and hours of playing time. So, tier 2, let's talk about these. Like Rec just said in the chat, uh, League's XP multiplier is increased from 5 to 8 times. And so that's huge. I mean, that's another 60% increase on top of that for XP. So by the time you get to this, and if we use this Rune Leagues thing, we're going to get to 1200 really quickly. So we're going to get to 8 times boost really fast. We're going to unlock this second tier really quickly. So I think that I'm going to do this one, the Barbarian training, because I think in the mid game it's going to be really strong. But I don't think in the early game, in those first few hours, I don't think it's really going to be that useful at all. But in the first few hours, we're just finishing up tasks. We're running around with our infinite energy, putting on things, taking off things, burning stuff, killing stuff. It's going to be really easy in the beginning. Okay, so there are 3 in tier 2 as well. There's Hotfoot, Friendly Forager, and Woodsman. For Hotfoot, you receive the Searing Boots. If those are put on, if you wear them, you gain the following benefits. Agility experience is gained based on your agility level while you run. So just as you're running. I've always wanted I've always wondered why running around the map didn't gain you agility XP. I've always wondered that in RuneScape. Like, why does running across a rooftop count, but running from Mistlin to Barbarian or to the Gnome Stronghold didn't get me a few XP? Like, that's never made any sense to me. So I like this one because I think gaining that is really cool. You said you're going Barb because you won't need tools. That's what I'm thinking. I can just skill and gain the XP and everything else. So I think I'm gonna go Barb as well. Um, so you get agility experience while you run. Any fish that are caught are automatically cooked, and any ore that is mined is automatically smelted. Now I really like that. If you, I'm not going to use this one, but I do think I do like this a lot. Additional, regardless of your footwear, picking up some termites or marks of grace from the course will automatically complete the lap, granting the completion XP and 10,000 coins. So it turns agility into a moneymaker, and all marks of grace have a 33% chance to spawn on all rooftops. So every third lap, you're finishing instantly as soon as you pick up the mark of grace. Every third lap, you're getting 10k coins. And completing the course grants 2 completion count and a 25% XP bonus. So you're running through agility really quickly. But if you don't have if your running doesn't work out, if your running doesn't run out, if your run energy doesn't deplete, then I don't really understand why agility needs to go up. Other than the fact that you're going to want shortcuts and things like that, which I guess will matter for bosses. So I guess that does matter. 100% success rate on all actions for agility and cooking, so you're never going to burn food. You will receive 2 times termites for the Colossal Worm Agility course, and 10 times crystal shards for the Perfidious Agility course. That could be really good if you're planning on doing crystal armor right off the bat. That could be a really good one because then you're going to get a whole bunch of crystals. And I am correct in my assumption of that, right? Like those are the crystal shards that are used to, for the Bofa and crystal armor, right? And then if you lose them, if you lose, you can go to the League's Tutor in Yama's Lair if you've lost it. The one that I'm probably going to go for is Friendly Forager. And I could be talked into a different one, but I'm probably going to go Friendly Forager. Upon choosing this relic, you would get the Forager's Pouch, right? While the Forager's Pouch is worn or in your inventory, you gain the following benefits. When you gather resources from woodcutting, fishing, mining, or hunter, the pouch will find and store a random grimy herb. Okay? This herb is limited to any which your herb lore level plus 25 can clean. So you'll start getting ones that you're not ready for at the earlier levels. This action also provides a small amount of herb lore experience. Here's the big thing about this. It will only find herbs that you have room for. So if you don't want grimy Marintil, just fill your pouch with it. Once it's full, it can't give you that one anymore. It'll choose a different one. Also, the pouch functions as a silk-lined herb sack and shares an inventory with it. So you're going to have, I think it's up to 100. I believe that what I read said that you put up to 130 herbs in the sack, and so of each type, so that's going to be huge. What this is going to do for me is going to give me potions and stuff really quickly. And then I can use farming. I don't have to worry about herbs with farming. I can just grow secondaries and things like that, which I think will be kind of cool. Additionally, when you gain the following perks to herb lore, all items are processed at once. So if you do an inventory, bang, you're done instantly. Potions created will have 4 doses instead of 3. So apparently that also works when you're doing something where you add a secondary, but the secondary depends on the dose. So let's say you're adding the crystal dust to a divine potion. If you do a single, basically decant them all, which I think you're going to have to do by hand because we don't have the Grand Exchange. Decant them all into 1-dose potions. If you add a single piece of dust or a single amylase crystal, it turns it into a 4-dose potion. That's how it was in the previous leagues. I don't know if it's going to be like that on this. I did see a specific video of somebody walking through it on the previous one. So it does look like you can automatically you basically multiply your potions of those, those high-level potions that require additional secondaries. There's also ones where you add a second herb to it, and that it counts as your secondary. It has a 90% chance to not be consumed. And it'll turn into a 4-dose potion. So that's huge. I really like that one. I think it's going to give me herb lore pretty quickly. There's a lot of herb lore stuff. I could be talked into the hunter one as well, and that's the one we're going to go over next. So the woodsman relic, and this is another tier 2 relic. Hunter traps harvest directly to your bank. Huge. You can just go from just thing to thing. You never have to go back to the bank. Logs chopped will be automatically burned. You can toggle that off though, so if you need the logs for other things, you can keep them. All items are processed at once while fletching. Stackable fletching items are capped at 10 times the regular amount per action. So typically, if you can do 15 arrow tips, you can now do 150. And you're going to gain all the XP from doing it. And at this point, because you're in the second thing, it's times 8 multiplier. So you will get really, really fast XP in fletching and hunter by using this one. If you're planning on going prayer potions, I would use this one. If you're planning on going like moth mixes, then I would do this one. Do the woodsman. All logs are chopped or automatically burned, gaining the full fire making experience, and that can be toggled. 100% success rate on all hunter actions, which is fantastic. So it's 100% success rate, and they go straight to your bank. Hunter traps attract animals faster, give double the loot and XP, and that is multiplied. So you're basically going to have 16 times the XP. Hunter traps always drop a random herb seed or tree seed when harvested, so that does go hand in hand with the other one. But obviously you're not going to choose both. You're just going to choose one. Excuse me. Like I said, there is one in, like, I think tier 6 allows you to choose a duplicate of a previous one. If you're really keen on some skilling, you could potentially come back and do both of these. Hunter rumors give double XP, and hunters loot sacks will reward 2 times as much loot, so it just amps up hunter rumors. All loot from jarred inflings will be doubled and noted, and then additionally they will no longer break upon opening, so you can reuse the jars, which is cool. And then Quetzal whistles will not lose charges, so you basically have an infinite Quetzal whistle. So if you want to lean into hunter, which I might lean into hunter. I haven't decided yet. Judicator, thanks for stopping in, dude. I appreciate it. Judicator does not want to stick around today because he wants to do a lot of this blind, so he's just coming in to show some support, which I really appreciate. So thank you, dude. Let's go over here, make sure we're still good. Good. Okay. Where were we? T6 relic has the option to repick one from the previous year. So does T6. Okay. Judicator, I don't need to be crabbing, bro. I'm burning logs. Burning logs. All right, so let's look at the Wisman one because yeah, we just did that. I'm sorry. So that's the tier two. Tier three, and again, I think this is going to be at like 1,200, maybe more points. I don't really know exactly, but this is going to be the first one that we're really going to have to work for. So this first two are going to be pretty easy, especially with the helper that we're using. I think we're going to get those pretty quickly. Um, this one is probably the one that I was thinking about doubling down on. So these ones are all teleport based. So your combat experience, these are just passive effects from all of these. Your combat experience, including hit points and prayer, will be multiplied by 1.5. The multiplicative with other experience modifiers. So you have 8 times the XP from the previous one. And let me make sure that does include, yeah, so all XP. So it's 8 times from the previous one. So now it's 12 times. So you have 12 times the XP, which is crazy. Bigger and badder is unlocked for free. Slay reward points are 5 times from task, and you aren't required to complete 5 tasks before earning points. So you're earning points from your first task, and you get 5 times as many points. Superior Slayer monsters will appear at a rate of 1 in 50. It's also cool because later you get to choose your Slayer tasks and how many you do. So it's pretty cool. Oh, you have more of a choice on what's going on. Okay, so here's the 3 relics. There's the Bank Heist relic, Evil Eye, and Map of Alacrity. Okay? Bank Heist. You get the Banker's Briefcase. The briefcase will allow you to teleport to any bank, bank chest, or deposit box. The briefcase ignores the wilderness requirements, and it cannot be used to go to an area that you haven't unlocked yet, but that's kind of implied. That's kind of implied across everything in this. So that's a good one. I think that if you're doing the one up here, so if you're doing this one, it gathers all resources and sends them to the bank, then it'd be silly for you to get the banker's briefcase. It would make more sense for you to get one of the other two. If you're doing the one like I'm doing, where you want to get a ton of resources but you don't have bank access, then I probably will choose this one because then I can get a bunch of skilling done right away. I do think that mid game is going to be skilling for me. We're going to do Slayer and skilling a whole bunch. And then late game, we're going to lean heavily into PBM, and because I want to get stats kind of maxed out. And I do have a plan for getting melee and magic maxed out, and I think those are the 2 skills I'm going to lean into. Okay, so Evil Eye, this is the second option. The eye will allow you to teleport to any entrance at the boss of any, excuse me, will teleport to the entrance of any boss or raid in the achievements list, which is huge for late game because then you could probably just use like a home teleport, go there and then teleport right back to the, right back to the boss, or go to Ferrex Enclave. So then you just get a dueling ring and you're in and out. Also, if you get that one and you're running, let's say, a boss where you can survive for an entire run without any food as long as you have kind of infinite prayer, you could go start the boss, go to, use your Artie Cape, and then just go straight back to the boss. And you can just go back and forth. So it'll allow you to grind bosses really, really well. I like this one a lot. Barrows will give you an option to go to the chest or to the surface. You can teleport to each Moon of Peril individually, which is going to be awesome to speed that up just a little bit, which will be cool. And then it cannot be used to teleport in an area you haven't unlocked, which is implied. The Map of Alacrity. This allows you to teleport to agility shortcuts. I think this one is kind of unique. I want to look up what all is on the list of shortcuts. It'll always send you to the less favorable side of the shortcut, so it'll be useful for you to have high agility if you get this one. So if you already have 99 agility, this might be the one. Just right off the top of my head, it's like I can go to the agility shortcut in Falador, and it's 20 steps away from a bank. And I'm positive there's other ones that I don't know that are even closer. Another one I can think of is the agility shortcut going to Zulrah. You can use that. Then you don't need to go to the boss because you can go to Zulrah. So I think that one is this really requires a bit of game understanding. So I might choose this one just because it'll force me to learn a whole bunch of new locations, which I think will be pretty cool. Teleports can only be used if you meet all the requirements to reach the shortcut's location. So that'll be important. And then shortcuts retain all their typical requirements, so agility and if you need a quest or something like that. So that's the 3 there. I think that off the bat, I will probably do the Banker's Briefcase. It'll allow me to do a lot of skilling. And then I think I will, on my tier 6, I may choose the Evil Eye, and that will allow me to teleport to all the bosses. But we'll see, because there's some other skilling ones that are really, really important too. So I like those two. Map of Alacrity, I feel like people that have been around the game for a long time, they probably see some value in that I don't. Just, again, because of game knowledge. All right, passive 4. This is going to be the first one where it's going to be a bit of a task to get this. You're not getting this on day one unless you're a master of the game, right? So this is going to be the first one we're really going to grind for, and I think a lot of our mid game, kind of early mid game. You said if you take Hot Foot, then the T3 relic is pointless. Let's look at Hot Foot. Yeah, so then you'll have. Let me see. Well, no, wouldn't that be perfect? Because if you have Hot Foot, then you're going to have agility level like instantly. And then that's going to teleport you to literally anywhere on the map. Yeah, so then you'll get 99 agility and you'll have access to every agility shortcut very quickly. So if you lean into Hot Foot, then I think that Map of Alacrity is the one you should take, because then you'll have 99 agility, you can go everywhere. I think it's the opposite. I think they go hand in hand. You just double down into the same thing. Because then you can only go to an agility shortcut if you meet all the requirements to reach the shortcut's location. So if you don't have 75 agility, you're not passing the Zulrah one, and you can't use it to go to Zulrah. There's the agility shortcut in the God Wars dungeon. If you have that requirement, then you can go there, because the quests are automatically unlocked. So I think that one is actually super powerful, again, if you have high game knowledge. But this isn't to the courses, it's to the agility shortcuts. So like I said, the little Falador one that only gives you 1 XP when you go into the Taverley dungeon, you can just teleport to that, and then you're a few steps away from a bank. You can go to the Zulrah one, you're a few steps away from Zulrah. So it's about going to the agility shortcuts, not the agility locations. Yeah, I think that might be where you're misunderstanding it. I think it's agility shortcuts, not agility training locations. So yeah, I think they go hand in hand. Which I think is, if you look, each one of these early ones, they either go with a previous one or they go with one of these further ones. So um, let's go into tier 4 now. Um, yeah, correct. I'm not gonna lie. The first time I read it, I thought the same thing, and I was like, "That's stupid. I could just use the Varrock teleport, not Varrock, because obviously you can't go there, but like I could just use the Falador teleport. Why would I go to the Falador location?" Uh, but it makes more sense, because then agility shortcuts get you closer to a lot more stuff. Um, so yeah, that one I think is extremely powerful if you already leaned into agility, which I might do, especially if you do Barbarian Gathering, because then you get passive agility XP from doing all of your skilling. And then you get Hotfoot, which gives you more agility XP from. You're basically going to be getting agility XP no matter what you're doing. And then you get to teleport anywhere in the map. So if you want to be able to get around quickly and you're not worried so much about gaining resources, which I am, then I would do that. I think tripling down into that is kind of crazy. You're really, I think, keeping yourself from getting a lot of other stuff. I don't feel like a lot of people will do that. They might choose this one for its value, but I don't think that many people will triple down into that. I can't imagine it. But again, there's a lot I don't know about the game, so we'll see. All right, let's take a tier 4. Tier 4 is the one that I'm most excited about, mostly because, and you guys have probably known this from the beginning, transmutation. This is one that I'm absolutely taking. I thought about doing the clue one, like I said, just to challenge myself, but we're taking transmutation. So upon choosing this relic, you get the transmutation ledger. Alchemic spells transmute items, and transmutation spells bank noted products, right? And you can toggle that on and off, right? High alchemy and low alchemy spells transmute into two new spells, or transform into two new spells, Alchemic Divergence and Alchemic Convergence. Divergence upgrades up to 10 of a resource into a higher tier, and Alchemic Convergence downgrades an item for 10 resources to a lower tier. And we'll talk about those tiers in a second. This one is insane. Okay? And here's why. Both spells cost 1 nature rune and have no level requirements. The spell gives you 10 XP from each transmuted item, right? And that's before multipliers. You have times 8. So you're going to get 800 XP per item that is transmuted. Or excuse me, 80, right? And then you can do 10 items. So you're going to get 800 XP every time you cast the spell at this point in the game. The Transmutation Ledger can be equipped and acts as an infinite source of nature runes. Are you kidding me? So I don't have to use runes, and then I can use this spell infinitely. I did look it up. Based on the ticks of how long it takes to do this, you can transmute or you can basically level up or level down any of these items at 12,000 items per hour, which is insane. So I'm looking forward to that. I've got a little trick that I might try in terms of getting some early and mid game prayer levels. So I'm excited to kind of explain that one and get you guys' feedback on it. When casting the item on something that is noted, these spells will automatically recast over time as long as there are items that are in your inventory. So I can just take a stack of items, throw them in my inventory, click once, walk away for a half hour. It basically makes upgrading your items into an AFK experience, and you're getting a ton of. You can do 12,000 items at 80 experience apiece, which is basically a million XP an hour. So in a day or two, you can max out your magic. And I intend to use this spell quite a bit, so I'm definitely going to have max magic pretty quickly. And so you'll see when I start talking about certain builds and stuff that I want to do, there's a reason I'm going to lean into magic. This is why. I intend to have a high magic level pretty quickly. One thing that I wanted to do was open up the list of things. Here we go. So hides. Make sure y'all can see this on the screen pretty well. We'll do it this way. Hides. You can take cow hides. And remember, cows spawn more quickly, right? You can take cow hides, transmute them into snake hides, use them for crafting, and transmute those into dragon hides, use those for crafting. And you can keep going all the way up to black dragon hide. You're going to be able to max out your crafting in a day. If you're somebody like me that can do 8 hours a day, you just get a boatload of cow hides and you do them all. Now, I don't know if there's other faster ways of getting some of these, but you can just keep going up and down. And if you can take cow hides, take 3 of them, transmute them all the way up to black dragon hide, then you have infinite nature runes. Then you just switch back to your alchemy spell and alchemize it, and then you have money. And there's certain things that double and triple and increase the amount of money you make off of certain things. So that's cool. Runes. Here's a really cool thing. Pure Essence and Rune Essence noted, you can turn those into runes, right? But then you can also turn air runes into wrath runes by just casting the spell repeatedly. So that's important too, because if you can take air runes and turn them into any rune, or let's say you get a bunch of just elemental runes, well, you can turn those into chaos runes and then sell them again, and you make money off of it. So it becomes a bit of a money maker as well. Ashes. Here's where I had an idea. I could AFK Volcanic Ash and then just transmute that into Infernal Ashes and get 99 prayer in a day. That could be pretty cool. Gems. So if I can take an uncut gem, turn it into Dragonstone, how many times am I going to do that? But remember, I can process 12,000 items an hour. Like a stack of 4,000 takes 20 minutes. So to get a stack of 4,000, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in 2 hours, you've turned 4,000 items into the highest level thing, and you get a whole bunch of additional experience. I don't think that's worth it for certain ones, and I want to do a little bit of a calculator to see at what point are you kind of wasting your time transmuting things. And so I will do a bit of a calculator that goes through that. But here's the big part. If you spend all that time doing it, the alch value goes up. Because now, let's say you turn that into a dragonstone piece of jewelry, and even maybe you enchant it or something and the alch value goes up, then you can turn this into a bit of a moneymaker. That's why I didn't choose the money making option in the beginning. I'm going to get a bunch of tasks completed, get to this midpoint in the game, and then just start cranking out certain levels. Money shouldn't be a problem at any point. Compost can be turned into ultra compost. This is why I kind of wanted to lean a little bit into farming. But then again, farming doesn't, I may not lean into farming at all because if I have ultra compost, I don't need the whole, things never die and they always, they always succeed or whatever because I'm going to have a pretty reasonable chance of that happening. Cactus and potato seeds are interchangeable. Teak and mahogany seeds become interchangeable. All the fruit tree seeds can become interchangeable. All of the tree seeds, bushes, barley, basically all of the seeds. And that's huge too if you're going to do farming because you can turn a guam seed into a torsol seed. So you basically always have the seeds that you need. You always have the logs that you need. I can imagine standing there, chopping willow logs, and then just turning them into teak planks, teak logs, and then turning those into teak planks and using them in the house. So I'm going to go find a place that has some oak or maple or something logs right outside of the house location. Chop down the logs, which I'm going to get more resources for, right? And I don't need an axe to do it. Chop down the logs, turn, let's say, maple logs into mahogany logs, then turn those into planks, and then just, or chop them, walk into the house, have the butler go take them to the sawmill, or maybe process them yourself if it's faster. So I could see how this could become a really quick way of getting high construction level. And I can imagine getting 99 construction in a day or two. Pyre logs, not really worried about that. Ores, you can turn copper ore into runite ore. Another thing here is like you can mine coal from the motherlode mine, and then just transmute some of it into runite ore, smith it using magic as well because you can use superheat item, and then walk over to an anvil, make it into a plate body, and then alch that. So it's another way of making money and processing and getting a bunch of magic XP and processing things so that you don't ever really have to bank. You just turn it into money. It does mean that you're going to be standing there AFK quite a bit, which is fine because I plan on editing a lot of videos during all of this. So for me, I'm kind of thinking about how I can use this transmutation thing to max out skills while I'm editing videos and creating content and all that other stuff. So I'm excited for that. Here's another big one. You can turn bones into superior dragon bones. Like that's insane. I think the big ones will be in the beginning, just turning, bones into maybe dragon bones or even into big bones. Turning bones into big bones would be a really useful one because it's a 183% increase plus all of the extra bonuses and stuff that you have. So I imagine this is going to be really good for getting prayer levels up. Fish, you can do the same thing. So pretty much stand there, fish raw anchovies, and then turn them into whatever and have 99 cooking in no time at all. So transmutation, I think, is going to be one of the most useful possible things that you could get in leagues. I think that it's unreasonably overpowered, and I'm excited to use it. It is going to be a bit of a time sink because you are going to have to spend the time doing it. But like I said, you can process 12,000 items an hour, and at these XP levels, because you get you're going to get resources, or you're going to get I get resources faster if I do the barbarian thing trick in the beginning, and I'll be able to process them quickly, and then I'll make money off the fact that they've been processed. So I can imagine a lot of those skills, smithing, fletching. Let's just look real quick. Everything where you're processing stuff. Prayer, magic, rune crafting, because you can make runes and then turn them right back into essence and then make them again and just stand there at the altar. So that's going to be amazing. Construction is going to be quick. Herb lore will be quick. Crafting will be quick. Fletching. Farming, not so much. Fire making, probably pretty easy. You chop regular logs, transmute them into a higher level log, and burn them. But I'll probably just go do Wintertide because all of your minigame points at tier 4 are multiplied by 8, so just go do the minigame. Smithing, and then obviously that makes you go want to do mining and stuff like that. So your gathering skills you automatically have a buff on, and then your processing skills you have a buff on as well. So I like transmutation. I think there's a lot of room for this to be used. I think it's also a lot of there's a lot of you have to be careful with this one because I do feel like there's a chance for you to get so used to processing things using this that you start to become inefficient because you're processing it 10 times and you don't need to. It's not the most efficient way to do it. Essences get noted, so you can't stand in the altar. You're right, you can't stand in the altar. But you can do like what you do with lava runes, where you teleport back, swap them, and then come back. So you can kind of infinitely use the same resources. But you are right, you can't just stand inside of the thing. I am wondering though if you can do that in the mini game, in the Guardians of the Rift mini game. Go in, make the things get tons of XP for doing it. Step out, turn it all back into essence. Especially if it's like an air rune or something. Like anytime you make an air rune, you can just turn that right back into. Well, no, because you don't use the essence. That's a silly one. See how you could try to use this to overdo things. So, Nine and Shush, I like that name by the way. That's a good point. So I was literally just saying how you could try to overuse this, and that's a perfect example of how you could fundamentally try to overuse this. You had a 30-minute nap. I kind of wish I could get a nap right now. I've been sleeping like absolute crap lately. It's been terrible. But I've been trying to get over being sick, and I've been really excited about leagues. Leagues has kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting to be this excited about leagues. I wasn't going to do leagues at all. 2 weeks ago, somebody asked me on stream whether or not I planned on doing leagues, and I said no because I just didn't understand what I was getting into. But now I'm sold. There will be no napping for the next 8 weeks. It's gonna be straight grinding. It's gonna be great. All right, tier 4, second one, conniving clues. I talked about maybe leaning into doing clues. If you want to get a whole bunch of collection logs and stuff like that, this is a good way of doing it. When opening a reward casket, you have a 1/3 chance of receiving clue contracts, which should be consumed to teleport you to your current clue step. Fantastic. So you can do your clues faster, right? And then for every clue, you have a different number of contracts you can do at a time. Reward caskets have a 1/4 chance to contain basically a clue scroll box of the same tier. So you can kind of cascade your clues. You can just do a clue and then get another one and another one and another one. So if you're doing a bunch of them at one time, one stack of a certain number of clues can get you a ton of other clues afterwards. If you have a larcenist, the way to thieve clues, you don't need to convincing clues as long as you're okay with dropping some that are annoying and don't have items for them. That is true. And with the other one, if you do 2 steps and you don't like it, the next one you pick up, you just go to the 3rd step. So that's a really good one. If you want to do clues, I would definitely do, where'd that one go? Let's see. Friendly forager, there we go. Larson. Okay, but that's why, because larcenist is actually in the next one. And there are things that you can feed from that get clues, so you don't necessarily need this one. You can just kind of wait and do your clues and stuff a little later. Which for me, it's probably what I'm going to do, because my clues will come from larcenist. But we'll talk about that. All clues have the lowest possible number of steps, and will give the maximum amount of reward rolls. Emote and follow clue steps no longer have item requirements, so it just requires you to do the emote, not to actually hold an item while doing the emote. And then clue vessels obtained from skilling, such as clue geodes and clue nests, are 10 times more likely to drop. So while you're woodcutting, you're going to get 10 times as many clue scrolls in your drops. I like this one. I think it's pretty cool. Like I said, I'm probably not going to do it. One thing I didn't mention was the clues from creatures like impling jars now have a 1 in 15 chance of dropping clues. I don't think I'm going to do this one. I've never been big into clues. Meh, you know. So I did talk before about, I think this is going to be the completionist. The person that does this is the same person who's going to do the agility shortcut. You know what I mean? That's the person who just knows everything about the game. They're trying to do something that they're not worried about maxing everything out. They know they're going to do it. You know? So they're just gonna run through and do the fun stuff in the game. The things that I don't even know how to do yet because I'm still relatively new coming back to the game. The third one in tier 4 is Butler's Bell. I talked earlier about active players and passive players, the more AFK players, the ones that are going to be doing this while they're at work or while they're taking care of the kids or whatever. You know, if you've got other things that take up your time and you AFK RuneScape a lot, there's a few that are going to be really good for you. Butler's Bell is one of them. Uh, you receive the Butler's Bell. When the bell is rung, a demon butler will be summoned to you for work. The butler will continue to work even if you are offline, and the butler will gather resources for you. Now, the butler goes for 90 minutes. So if you can log in once every 90 minutes, and for anyone who's ever played Clash of Clans, you're used to logging in every 90 minutes and clicking on something, right? He will mine up to 8 ores per minute, 14 fish, 10 logs, pick 50 flax, or farm 10 herbs per minute. That's crazy. That's 600 herbs an hour. So you're going to come back to 1,000 herbs every time you log back in. It's going to be 900 herbs. That's insane, right? Additionally, the butler can also process these gathered items, but at half the rates listed above. So they can turn ores into bars, they can cook fish, they can turn logs into planks. That could be really useful for certain skilling. Flax into bowstrings, and herbs into unfinished potions. I like the herbs into unfinished potions. I feel like that's a really useful one. Yeah, and then the rates of what you can do for a butler in a day, Nine, and you have a good point. Um, so the demonic butler processes resources for you. He will share a 10 XP before the multipliers with you in the relevant production skill per resource. So if if he's making 900, that's 9,000 XP times the multiplier bonus, which at this point in the game is at least 8 times. Let's see. Yeah, you're at 8 times XP. So you're getting a boatload of XP for doing this. If you are somebody who can log in every few hours and get this done, this works. Here's another big one for this. And thank you to Judicator. I know he's not with us on the chat today. He wants to do this completely blind. But he did ask me to answer one question for him. And that is, does the Butler's Bell allow you to get the Butler working on your Leagues account, and then you log out and go work on your main? And the answer is yes. So you can click on your Leagues account, have the Butler doing something for you for 90 minutes, and then you can go do a farm run on your other account and kill a boss for an hour. And then go back to your Leagues account, reset everything and process anything you need to, and go back to your main account. So you don't have to stop the progress on your main account just to compete in Leagues this season. And I really like that. I think that's I've praised Jagex for turning RuneScape into a game where you can choose to play AFK at a very slow rate or more active and get things faster and achieve better things and stuff like that. And I think that with Leagues, they made it very accessible to everybody. And so hats off. I think that's a fantastic one. I think that being able to process and do all that skilling, and it doesn't ruin the combat in RuneScape. You still have to train all your combat stuff. It just makes all your skilling stuff better. So I think this is, and I said this was going to be for AFK people, but I think it's not only for AFK people. I think that if you are somebody who doesn't care about skilling and you just want to go bossing, I think that you could just have your demonic butler mining ores for you. When he's done, you could smith them all, and then he's doing all the work, you're getting all the XP, and then you're out there killing bosses and slaying and all that other stuff. So I can imagine this would be used by a lot of grinders as well to really knock a bunch of stuff out really quickly. So or kind of double down on what you're doing. You're doing combat, somebody else is making all your stuff for you. I like that. That's a good. That's actually I might look into that. That's a good one. All right, tier 5. Your XP multiplier goes from 8 to 12. That's going to be insane. Now we know it's going to take a lot of points to get to this point. You're going to have to do a lot of those tasks that we talked about before, but these ones are worth it. So Nature's Accord, Larcenist, which Nine you mentioned that a second ago, and Soul Harvest. All 3 of these are kind of insane. And it took me a second to think about which one of these I might do, and I might change my mind. We'll see when I get there. We'll see what I need and how I'm developing the account at that time. The first one, Nature's Accord, grants a fairy mushroom. Okay. Active effects: farming patches and plants no longer have any level requirements to harvest, plant, or make. So if you don't work on farming at all, and you don't get anything that gives you passive farming or an herb lore or anything like that early on, you can crank out farming later in the game because then nothing has a requirement. You just go straight to, you can just stack up magic seeds, get to tier 6, tier 5, and then just crank out, 99 farming. Which I think if you lean into Hunter early on could be good if you're thinking about maxing everything out. It could be good to lean into Hunter in the beginning and then lean into this at the end. So I like this. It's just an overall overarching idea. I really like that. Additionally, you gain the following perks to farming. You receive 10 times the yield from all farming patches, and everything will automatically be noted. So if you're getting 9 herbs per patch, you're going to get 90 herbs per patch. So XP is granted for all additional resources. So now you're getting 9, let's say you're getting 90 herbs, and then they're 25 apiece. I don't know what that is. So 90 times 25, that's 2250 times 12. Every farming patch is going to give you 27,000 XP. What? That's a good one. Yeah, that's a really good one. So I like that's actually a really good point. So you can use transmutation. We have talked about the things that you can change uh, with alchemical divergence. One of those is seeds. So you can turn all your seeds into the highest level thing, and then just crank out farming really quickly at the end. So I think that now I'm looking at this. The Forager might not be the way to go. I might do this one, the Hunter Traps, and I can turn on and off for the burning. Fletching will go faster. Woodcutting and fire making will go faster. Hunter will go faster, and the Quetzal Whistle will give me a lot of movement. So I think we're going to look at that. I'm going to highlight it, but I might switch around and do that one instead, and then just work on herb lore and farming later. And so we'll see which one I really want to do. But I like that one. You have a 20% chance. Oh, let's go back just a little bit. XP is granted for all additional resources gathered, like I said, so you can get 27,000 XP from a farming patch, which I think is awesome. You have a 20% chance to not use a seed or a sapling when planting the crops in the patches in the first place. So use transmutation to turn it all into your highest level seed, and then there's a 20% chance that you don't use it. When you're bossing early on, you get a bunch of seeds. You can go to a farmer and steal 100 seeds in the beginning, and then take your lowest level ones, turn them into the highest level ones, and be done. And then you have a chance of not using it. So it's a really good chance. I feel like a lot of people are going to do moons. And think back to your time at moons. I know for me, I only did 188 KC to green log the entire thing. But even then, I had a boatload of seeds. Imagine killing Zolra and you're getting nothing but magic seeds. But also imagine lower level things that drop tree seeds. Like, I know we can't kill the Brutus, but Brutus drops acorns. You could transmute those all the way into magic seeds and just grow those. So I liked that one a lot. Unlocking, so the fairy mushroom will allow you to teleport to any fairy ring, spirit tree, or tool leprechaun. That's crazy. The tool leprechaun is the powerful part of this. Unlocking this will auto-complete Tree Gnome Village quest. This item ignores wilderness teleport restrictions, so you can teleport out of the wilderness anywhere. And then obviously you can't teleport to anywhere you haven't unlocked. So I like Nature's Accord a lot. I was thinking about doing Larcenist for thieving. But now the more that I look at this, and then you were talking about transmutation as well, we might have to change that up. So speaking of Larcenist, Larcenist will gain you the following benefits while thieving. So obviously I think you have to unlock Artie for this, or Tirawanin, or whatever it's called, so that you can thieve at a high level. And I think this one for getting blood shards would be insane. So you can basically just have a blood fury the entire time you're playing. Having a ton of blood furies would be pretty awesome. All right, 100% success rate on all actions. Automatically re-pickpocket an NPC, so you never miss, which is amazing. Automatically re-steal from a stall. So if you're doing like cannonballs or something, you just steal from the stall repeatedly. Items obtained from pickpocketing in stalls are noted, which is going to be amazing. Stalls never deplete, and guards will never catch you thieving from them. Huh? And the amount of coin pouches you can carry is increased by 10 times. That's insane in and of itself. Additionally, thieving, loot is increased by 10 times for the following, and that's pickpocketing, including clue scrolls, stealing from stalls, and stealing house valuables in Varlamore. This is a big one because you're going to get a lot of jewelry, and that'll be good. That's good for crafting. It's good for magic experience. Good for a whole bunch of different stuff. But I think the biggest thing that I can think of is the blood shards, so you can have blood furies. There are a lot of things in this game, in this mode, that will give you healing capabilities. But if you lean heavily into stuff that doesn't give you a lot of healing, then you could use Larcenous to get a bunch of blood shards to make yourself blood furies. Also, if you go kill Zolrel, you have a super high chance of getting Onyx, so you can make yourself, and then you have a higher chance of getting Zenite from other things. So like you have, and if you get Onyx and then you make yourself a Fury amulet, then you make a Blood Fury and you have, a 15 Blood Furies because you're going to have a ton of them. I also can think about that with, if you're getting 10 times, if you do crystal armor, then you're going to have a boatload of crystal shards because you can steal from elves and stuff like that too. So I think Larcenous is a big one that could provide you with a bunch of stuff. It's kind of going to be niche but really powerful. I also think it gives you 99 thieving really quickly. It's later in the game than I wish it was. I wish it was a little earlier. I like to start my accounts out with I like to start my accounts out by getting the rogue's outfit and stealing a bunch of stuff because it makes me a bunch of money. But I guess I'm gonna have to switch that up and do that more toward the end. Nine, I saw your comment about stacking with the rogue's outfit. So yeah, if you have the rogue's outfit, which I would definitely recommend, it's super easy to get. Then you just go get that, and now you're getting 20 blood shards. You're getting 20 house keys every time you pickpocket, a wealthy citizen, something like that. So it's kind of insane, and everything will kind of stack too. Like you're gonna get 20 keys, and then you go rob 20 houses, and you get 20 times the loot. Like it's insane. So, and then you think about it, you get XP for all of those interactions. So you're not going to be thieving for very long, and you're going to get a ton of resources. You'll be 99 pretty quickly, and I think it'll be pretty awesome. All right, Soul Harvest is the last one. I feel like this one could be really powerful. This could be another one that you might want to double up on, because Tier 6 gives you that ability. Toggleable effect. All dropped bones and ashes will be turned into soul shards, okay, which I think is really cool. Active effects. While harvesting any farming crop or NPCs would drop bones or ashes, you will instead harvest stackable soul shards. Soul shards can be used for the following. You can be used in place of pure essence while training rune crafting, which is going to be fantastic, right? And remember, you can transmute things back into rune essence, so it kind of creates an infinite resource there. 100 can be sacrificed to the libation bowl at Tiamat for 550 prayer experience before the league multipliers, which at this point you have 12 times multiplier, right? Without requiring libation wine. So you're just gonna be running back and forth from the prayer altar to the bowl, and then you're gonna get 99 prayer in no time at all. This is if you want 99 prayer like mid game to late game, that's your one. Random tip: if Soul Harvest turns maniacal monkey's bones into shards, it will be insane. You're absolutely right. That is crazy thinking. You have very high prayer XP very fast. And remember, some of the tasks are getting an unreasonable amount of experience. 25 million, experience in a skill will get you 200 points, which furthers your ability to get these relics. So thinking about getting a skill well past 99, there's some benefit to that. So I would absolutely try to do that. Soul Harvest, I think, is a really good one. I think that this, it's hard for me to think far enough into the future with my limited knowledge of the game and think about which ones I might want to double up on. But this category in Tier 5, I think, might be one of the ones because it's going to allow you to skill and level things up in an insane way, especially if it's like maniacal monkeys because they just drop the shards and then it's just going to be insane. All right, Tier 6. Tier 6, I think, is one of the really, really good ones, and we'll see. So the Grimoire, the Eternal Sustenance, and Culling Spree. So the Arcane Grimoire is a grimoire can be used freely to swap between spellbooks. which if you're doing a magic build could be really good. It'll just give you a lot of versatility with all the different bosses and stuff, especially since they're amping up the elemental weaknesses. There's ways of amping up the elemental weaknesses in ways that we haven't talked about yet, and so I'm ready for that. Additionally, when you select this relic, you will unlock all prayers and all spells regardless of area, quest, or diary requirements. This one I think is going to be very, 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 very powerful for late game PvM. If you want to concentrate in the beginning on getting other levels up, getting wealth, getting all those other things, and just gathering resources, and then do PvM later in the game, which is kind of what I plan on doing, this one could be amazing because you can switch between all the spells and then you unlock everything. You have all the prayers. And so then I don't have to go do Titans. I can just run straight into other content. And I like that. Eternal Sustenance, food is no longer consumed when eaten. So you can have a shark and a Karambwan in your inventory, and that's your 2 healing spots because you never eat it. You just click, it gives you the food, and then as long as you wait the ticks, you can do it again. You could have 1 Karambwan in your inventory and just keep clicking it. Fast food. I'm thinking like pizzas and stuff where it's 1 tick. I wonder how well that stacks. I wonder if there's ways of kind of manipulating food where you can eat really, really, really quickly. So food no longer being consumed when eaten is insane. That one, there's a reason that only has 1 thing in its tier 6. That is extremely powerful. Again, I like these ones are definitely good for PvM. I like this a lot. The third one is Culling Spree. Players must choose their Slayer task from a list of 3 choices, with at least 1 boss task if possible. So I like this because if you want to do bossing and stuff like I do, you're going to have a lot of chances to do that bossing because you're going to choose from these 3, right? Task kill count is selectable for all tasks between 5 and 200 KC. So imagine you want to go kill a boss that has a 1 in 200 chance of you dropping the thing that you want. Screw it. Give me 200. And then you just go do it. And then you can also use the jewelry that allows you to extend the tasks and make the tasks shorter depending on how you're doing it. So Superior Slayer Masters have a 50% chance of spawning another Superior on death. And remember, Superior Slayer monsters are 1 in every 50 now. So this, in essence, turns them into about every 1 in 35 because of the way that the math works out. And I could be wrong on my math, so if I am, just correct me. Superior monsters always drop between 1 and 3 clue scrolls, which are elite. So if you're leaning into the clue scroll thing from further above, you might want to choose this one because then you're going to have even more clue scrolls, which I think is going to be insane. All effects of the Slayer helmet are gained without needing to wear one. So this is I want to do a lot of Slayer in this one, and this leans so heavily into Slayer, it's insane. I love this one. Rune Pouch, Herb Sack, and Looting Bags are purchasable for free from the Slayer reward store. So if you can make it to this part in the game without needing any of those, and do a whole bunch of the other tasks, so really lean into skills early, and maybe some low to mid-level bossing and stuff like that. By the time you get to the later stuff and you're really grinding out Slayer, this one is going to be insane. You're going to be able to gather so many resources. Your Rune Pouch is going to be awesome. I think this is Culling Spree is a really good one. I think Grimoire is a good one as well. I don't know. Oh, by the way, it was tier 7 that gives you the ability to reach back and grab a different one. So tier 7, League's XP multiplier is increased from 12 times to 16 times. So at this point, you're late game, everything's getting maxed out. I mean, 16 times. Think of anything where you can get 1,000,000 XP, right? So tasks that are 100k XP an hour, you've maxed out a skill in a day. If you're somebody like me that plays a lot every day, so yeah, I can run an 8-hour day and completely max out a skill. So by the time you get to this point, you probably already have some 99s. I could probably, once I get to this point, max out the entire account in a week or 2. And I think, so that's going to be cool to max this out early. And just, so what that does, I think, is it gets you to want to do the tasks as fast as possible and really focus on this game mode, because you don't have to worry about grinding skills. You're going to be able to get those really quickly. That'll be cool. The following all occur if you choose flow state. The following all occur at a rate of 2 ticks. So if you really want to crank out levels, this is the one you want to choose. Mining, wood cutting, fishing, cooking, fire making, adding any logs to a bonfire, offering bones at a prayer altar, fletching, smelting, crafting, farming, and magic all happen at 2 ticks. So your transmutation spell, 2 ticks now, which means that you can now do 18,000 items per hour. And you get tons of XP for doing it. So you're automatically going to get all the points for super high magic level. You're probably going to be able to process a whole bunch of stuff and smelt a whole bunch of stuff very quickly toward the end. That's going to be great. Minigame interactions are included as well. So Wintertot, Temporos, and Stealing Valuables are all done faster. And then this affects stacks with Fletching Knife and Diabolical Worms. So basically, your fletching tasks are going to happen in 1 tick because the Fletching Knife takes a tick off of the first. It's their first action will be 2 ticks, and then every action after that will be 1 tick. So I don't know how long 27 ticks is, but that's 18 seconds. So you're gonna finish up an entire inventory in, well, no, it'd be faster than that. I don't know, but you're finishing up on the entire, because you're also stacking, depending on which ones you chose earlier, you're stacking a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So that's going to be insane. Tier 8, you'll notice that I haven't selected anything here, and that's because I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know which one I'm going to do. I think I need to learn so much more and really get into some combat before I really find out which one of these that I want to do. So there's Executioner, Minion, and Flask of Fervor. You have no additional passive effects, so the XP multiplier caps out at 16 times. But like I said, if you do that and you really want to max everything out, do everything in 2 ticks. You're having 16 times the XP rate, and you've probably got tons of resources early on in the game. You can do this one. That's great. Or, I didn't talk about this, but Reloaded. You can choose a relic from a previous one. I think that, I could choose this one where you do Slayer and the spellbooks. You could double up on, I think, Soul Harvest and the Thieving one could be really good because then you're going to end up with really high prayer and really high rune crafting, which is going to be good for magic, which would be good for this one. I could see you even going as far back and taking this one so you have unlimited teleports to basically everywhere in the game, which would be cool. And I could even see you coming back and choosing one from these earlier ones. What if all of a sudden you're at the end of the game and you just want to gather resources and send them to the bank? That could still be powerful late game. So tier 7 I think is really cool because you can choose to really lean back into a lot of skilling, or you can choose to kind of double down on skills moving forward and do something that's going to be better for combat or something like that. So I like that one a lot. Tier 7 is going to be a point at which you make a big decision about how you're going to progress through the rest of the rest of the event. Okay, Executioner for tier 8. Let's go ahead and grab some more logs. We are slowly chipping away at the wood burning here. We are at 94. We have 600k to the next level, so we got to burn 2,000 more logs. All right, so for Executioner, the Sage's Axe is a thrown ranged weapon, which can be used to execute targets below 20 hit points. The axe has an attack range of 6 tiles. The axe's damage respects any range damage reduction effects and immunities that the target has. So it's only going to be good against ranged people, right? The axe will not work against Yama. It doesn't seem like anything works against Yama. Yama's going to be still the hardest boss by far. Thrown axe does not consume it, but the primary hit does trigger the regeneration effects from the demonic packs. And we'll talk about that later. There's also extra things for thrown items, and that will stack with this as well. Execute damage can hit additional targets with demonic packs. So if there's something that allows you to hit other things, which for thrown items there are, bonuses that allow you to hit other things, which I think that would be really cool. So Executioner, if you've leaned into thrown ranged weapons and you want to do some bossing and you want to try to execute targets below 20 hit points, I think even this could be really useful for Slayer as well. And you got to think about it. There's a lot of, when we talk about these setups later, doing the pack planner, there's a lot of those where you can, if you're a certain number of tiles away, you heal a certain amount, or you do more damage or something like that. So this could be really, really powerful for a Slayer / bossing weapon. Minion is the other one. grants a minion whistle. This one's kind of crazy. I'm going to be honest with you. This one's kind of wild. This is why I can't choose between these three because these are a little bit insane. The whistle will allow you to summon a powerful minion that lasts for 30 minutes. When you are in multi-combat, it will cast an AoE attack if the target is weak against range or mage. The minimum hit is 3, the max hit is 10. The attack speed is 1.8, so I believe that's 1.8. Is it 1.8 seconds? So probably 3 ticks. And the accuracy is 45,000. So you're gonna have a lot of accuracy on that. The whistle can consume up to 5 unique equipable Zamorak items, right? And by using them on the whistle, you increase your minion's max hit by 2 per item. So you can basically get that max hit up to 20, which is insane. Let's get some more logs going. And then the minion will try to automatically loot items from creatures you kill, including fired ranged ammo, which is nice, and you're going to regenerate ammo. A minimum value threshold can be set for that, which is configurable in the whistle, so that's cool. The minion will deal damage to targets which are immune to thralls, and then obviously this won't work against Yama. Like I said, a lot of it's not going to work. Excuse me for just a second. I'm going to switch over to the intermission thing. I'll be back in probably 2 to 3 minutes or so. I need to answer an important phone call. So I'm going to do that real quick. We'll go back and finish the tier 8, and then we're going to start getting into some of the setups and stuff, and loot drops, and bosses and everything. Echo bosses, and then the setups for the accounts. So I'll be right back. All right, guys. Thanks for waiting around for me. I appreciate it. Don't like when the personal stuff gets in the way of stream, but hey, life is life. And today it's just mostly chatting, so I feel like we're gonna be okay. All right, so we're going through tier 8. Tier 8 is definitely end game content type stuff. I think I'm going to start kind of a little bit from the beginning here. We don't have to go over Executioner, but let's go back through this one. And I think that these are things that we really have to look at when we're talking about the builds that we're going to talk about in a second. So on this planner, these builds of how many, the packed points that you're going to get, which you can get up to 40. Those are the ones that are really going to be doubling and tripling down into these types of things. So I think at this point, you really are looking at late game content. Okay, so the minion whistle, it's a minion, lasts for 30 minutes, which is going to be good for certain boss fights. Multi-combat will throw down an AoE attack, super high accuracy, and you can get it to, if you charge it with Zamorak items, you can get the minions to hit for 2 extra, so that means that it's going to max hit for 20. The minion will try to automatically loot items from creatures that you kill, and you can set a value threshold. The minion will deal damage to targets which are immune to thralls. And I don't know which targets those are, because again, I don't know enough about the game, but I imagine that's pretty powerful. And again, this will not attack Yama. So Yama's pretty much, it's his event, Flask of Fervor. I like this one a lot. I think, like I said, there's a lot of builds where you can do a lot of survivability, a lot of tankability. And if you're not going to do that, if you're going to do a really high DPS, kind of like a glass cannon build, then you want to probably lean into this Flask of Fervor. And here's why. When the flask is consumed, your hit points will be restored to full, your prayer points will be restored to full, your special attack energy be restored. It's basically like hitting a regeneration pool, just right there in the middle of a fight. Over the next 2.4 seconds, the sigil will trigger 3 explosions, which deal 60% of your base prayer level, 30% PvP, to all enemies within 3 tiles of you, regardless of, and it's typeless damage. So you're just going to do damage, period. And the way that I read that is it's kind of indefensible damage, because it's not, if it's typeless, that it's not going to roll a defense stat, basically. Let's get some more logs going on this fire. We are trying to get to 99, right? So since it's typeless damage, it's 60% of your base prayer level. If it's going to be 3 explosions, let's say you have 99, let's say it just hits for 60 then. It's going to, over 2.4 seconds, it's going to hit 3 times for 60. So you're in a bit of a pickle, right? You done did it. Your HP's low, you're running out of prayer, you can't run away, you don't have any special attack, you can't do anything. You click a button, you're full health, full spec energy, full prayer points, and you start exploding like this is a game of Brotato. Like, that just seems kind of overpowered to me. I like that. The base cooldown is 3 minutes, and for every 10 damage you deal in a single hit, it will reduce the cooldown by 0.6 seconds. So there are some Halley builds and stuff like that where you can increase the base damage by like 21, which effectively increases your damage by a lot. What that means is that every 10 damage, for every time you hit, which is every 5 ticks, you'll reduce by 2 ticks. And that's really going to bring down, or if you're doing like a dagger build, where then you're hitting every 2 ticks, every time you hit, if you hit 10 or more, you're reducing that amount. So you really could get this down to about every minute and a half, which could be good for Slayer. Imagine if you can just refill your prayer points. If you can make them last long enough that you can overlap it, it'll be insane. You might be able to trigger that at Nilo Room to save your butt if the pillars are hurting in Theater of Blood. Yeah, and see, I've run Theater of Blood precisely one time, and it was like the quest version, and I did it with a friend, and neither one of us knew what we were doing, and it was a disaster, as you can imagine. So I don't know much, but I do know what you're talking about with the pillars. Yeah, you just click it, and all of a sudden you're full health again, because the pillars will fall in on you. Is that what you're talking about with the lady at the end? You have to attack with this very specific weapon. This perk also works in the gauntlet. What? So with the demonic Hunlif or whatever it's called in this one, if you're, you've messed up, you are standing in a tornado on top of some lava, and you're in the wrong prayer. Just click the button, man. It's time for you to use that sigil. So I really like that one. These ones right here, like I said, you really are going to have to lean into some type of late game build type thing. And so as you're building your packs, I think that it's really important to think about these, to build into these. So there's kind of this balance between what items can you get from what bosses, and therefore what should you use to lean into those. What areas do you need to unlock to be able to get those items? Because remember, this is an Iron Man account. You can't just go to the Grand Exchange and buy it. You have to lean in to what you know you can get access to. And then you have to access that by unlocking the areas in order to get the drops from the bosses, in order to build out a kit that you can then apply the demonic packs to be able to maximize your damage using these abilities. So there's layers to this ish. You know, this is crazy. One more thing before we move on to talking about the uh, demonic pacts actual plans. One more thing that I want to look at there is these are the mini games that are affected, that you have like higher mini game boosted points for. Uh, Mastering Mix, Veil Totems, Brimhaven Agility Course. Another big one is Mahogany Homes. So Mahogany Homes, if you're getting, what was it, 8 times the XP. So if you can use your, if you can chop some stuff, some logs outside of your house, transmute them into something bigger, use the Dream Mentor plank make spell to turn those into planks, and then just take those with you, and then get a ton of XP, you could probably get 99 construction pretty quickly. And so I like Mahogany Homes being cranked to 11. Marks of Grace from Agility Rooftops are increased. Uh, Mining Guild, unidentified minerals drop rates is bigger. The Motherlode Mine gold nugget drop rate is increased, but I saw that there was a glitch with this last year where it's still capped out at 3 nuggets per time that you drop the pay dirt into the receptacle. So the way that you do that, oh, what's the free Bandos page, man? Look at that. Every time you drop the dirt in, you want to actually drop 14 of your dirt on the ground, and then put the rest of it in the bucket, and then get your 3 golden nuggets, and then drop the other 14 in there, or just mine 14 at a time and bring it back. But that will allow you to maximize the amount of gold nuggets. I imagine that they might fix that, but apparently that's been a bug in every single league's content so far. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to do Motherlode Mine, which I think is a great idea, just make sure that you kind of maximize your nuggets you're getting out of that, because you do want the prospector outfit, because I'm pretty sure there's tasks for that. Pest control points, that's important, because if you want to do Void and Elite Void, which I don't know if you can get Elite Void in this, I think you can. Again, don't know enough. But if you want to do Void, Void's going to be really good for easy swaps, and because armor is kind of limited, pest control might be really good for mid game, because Void is going to be really good for mid game. Being able to do really quick swaps is going to be really good. Rogue's Den, so you're going to get increased XP from Rogue's Den from cracking the safe. That'll be cool. Shooting Stars, easier. You're going to get Warriors Guild tokens better. Giant's Foundry is going to be better, which I know that's a big thing for Irons. You have to do a lot of that, and nobody really likes it. Guardians of the Rift points and Abyssal Pearls. So you're going to get a ton more Abyssal Pearls, which is going to be nice. So you need Kandarin and Turan one. So you could do it on this, because I think both of those are available. So yeah, you can get Elite Void, which would be nice. So having Elite Void on something like, isn't Elite Void really good at Theater of Blood? Because you can swap more easily. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So Guardians of the Rift is good. You could probably get like the Abyssal Needle and stuff like that, which would make rune crafting a lot better, especially toward the late game. Mage Training Arena points, you want that because you want your Mage Cape. Castle Wars, nobody's doing that. Chompy Bird kill count, I don't think you need that. Tithe Farm, you want that one because you can probably do that. You probably get farming up really, really fast using that. So mini games I think are going to be really important. There's probably going to be some days where I run just one mini game and max out an entire skill in one day, which I think would be pretty cool. But yeah, let me know what you guys think you'll do in terms of early game stuff and things like that. So I think that Barbarian Gathering, I know Greg, you said this at the beginning. Barbarian Gathering is definitely going to be one that I'm going to take right off the bat. It's kind of silly for me not to. I think it's absolutely the best one for somebody like me to use. But I also think that the Endless Harvest for somebody who wants to be a bit more AFK or works from home and just kind of plays RuneScape passively on the side, that's probably the one for you. Tier 2, this is again when you have to an 8 times multiplier. I think Friendly Forager is probably the one that I'm going to go with. But again, I could be talking to Woodsman. I'm going to see. I don't think that I'm going to need to do farming and herb lore as much as I think, especially early to mid game. And so I could wait for the other one later. So I think we're going to lean probably into the hunter one. Do hunter rumors. It gives you a ton of resources. Resources are multiplied. I can process those resources faster. I can use transmutation later in the game to transfer those into higher and lower tier things. Um, I think Evil Eye is probably the one that I'm going to take because there's a lot of bosses that are near bank locations, so I'll be fine there as well. So I think that I'll have to choose here which one I want to do. I don't think I'll do the agility one. I'm going to have to look at the agility shortcuts list and then really study the map. And so maybe I'll do a little short later and let y'all know what I think about that one once it's there, or once I've done the research. Transmutation, I think inarguably that's the best one for me. I could see if you're trying to have some fun, you doing the Clue one, and the Butler's Bell again. If you're doing something AFK, 100% that's going to be the one you lean into. Uh, for tier 5, I think Larcenist is a really, really good one. Being able to get your thieving straight to 99 really fast, being able to get tons of blood shards, tons of clue scrolls. You can get food from stalls. You can get gems from stalls. You can like, there's so much. Think about every stall that there is in the game and all the skills that are affected by that. Take that and tack transmutation on top. I wonder how many. I wonder how many skills you could max out with that. Yeah, you could do cooking. There's silk. There's fur, so you can process those. There's a fish stall, so you get raw food. You can cook that. You can turn that into whatever level fish you need. There's the crossbow stall, so you can get a whole bunch of mithril bolts and mithril limbs and stuff like that. Uh, Silver stall, which you can turn into gold. There's a spice stall, which could be useful. Gem stall, that's an easy one. That's obvious XP in crafting. And then there's the ore stall, which you could stand there and if there's an ore stall near a an anvil, that could be really powerful because then you can just use transmutation to turn it into whatever level you want, make it into an item, and then alch it because you have unlimited nature runes. So you can superheat and alch basically for free. So I like I like that. I think those are really good. That Larcenist could be a really good one. Soul Harvest, I think, is good if you want to set yourself up for some late game super high prayer and super high rune crafting. I think that one's very specific to rune crafting and prayer. Tier 6, I think Calling Spree is a really good one. I want to lean into Slayer quite a bit, so I think that's definitely one of the ones I'm going to use. If you want to go super late game PVM and you don't want to have to carry a ton of food, I think that Eternal Sustenance is a really, really good one. And even the Grimoire, I think if you used your tier 7 to choose another relic and you choose to double up on tier 6, I think you're pretty smart. You've done some smart stuff there. Because imagine having all the prayers, all the spell books, and having just all of these extra Slayer things. I mean, it'd be insane. You'd have a very good mid to late game experience. Tier 7, like I said, if you want to finish up your skilling, I think that, flow state is a good option. If you want to maximize everything from all of your other relics and do a lot of late game PVM and Slayer, I think Reloaded is better. And then these ones, like I said, it depends highly on how you lean into what we're about to go over, which is the bosses and and the loots that you can get from that and the demonic pacts. So let's move on. I want to talk about the bosses. Where did those go? Okay, so Varlamore, we're going to unlock. Well, first of all, real quick, does anybody have any questions about the craft that we just went over? That was a lot. I'm kind of just reading through this. We're just having fun learning about this. But does anybody have any questions? Anything I can look up? Anything that I might know? Anything you know that you feel like I should know? We got a few minutes. We'll catch up. Make sure we're good. We're sitting on 8.2 million fire making experience. That is fantastic. All right. No real questions. It took 2 hours for us to go through that. That is crazy. All right. The echo bosses. All right. Total random. Inside the Butler's Bell page, you can see the XP rates per day. Okay. Let's go to Butler's Bell. Where's he at? Butler's Bell. Wow. So you could get 240,000 crafting XP per hour in late game. Butler Bell processing experience per day. What the? All right, hold on. The demonic butler might be OP, bro. Here's another important bit. If you're doing the demonic butler will only process resources he himself gathers. He will not accept resources from the player to be processed. That's cool. That is crazy. He will always pick 3,000 per hour of flax. And then he can make 1,500 an hour of bowstrings. That's crazy. Herbs, insane. Unfinished potions, insane. Yeah, this is wild. Okay, so the butler's a bit OP. I feel like I would need to do like an entire separate look, the butler might be it. Transmutation though is just insane. Like the ability to just have that flexibility. Here's what I'm thinking for me, and the reason that I'm so dead set on transmutation. I want to go magic, right? I'm definitely, you're going to see that I want to lean into magic heavily for pretty much every build that I've looked at. I want to lean into magic. I think that Jagex has perfectly kind of set this up for magic and the new magic weaknesses and all that other stuff. So I think I want to lean into magic. Transmutation is going to provide you with a boatload of magic XP. And then you're going to get all the late game stuff where you're getting 50 million magic XP. You're just going to naturally get that. So you're going to unlock a bunch of stuff with that. But it allows me, what's more important, is it allows me flexibility. I don't know what I'm getting into. I don't know what I'm going to need. I know that I can take the time to process anything in the game. As long as I know what to do, I can do it. I don't know what I'm going to need and when I'm going to need it. But the fact that I can just transmute it into anything that I need to, or alch it, or just having, like, that's a part of the game that I understand very well. I use a lot of nature runes myself. I like training up magic, and it's something I feel like I can naturally fall right into, and it's a really usable one for me. I don't want to do clues because I don't enjoy doing them, and I'm just going to end up kind of hating it halfway through. And then Butler's Bell, I play a bit too actively for this to really be super useful to me, but also I could just spend my time doing PVM and let the butler do all the work. So it's hard. You know what? Maybe, and this is what I said earlier, if you go all the way to tier 7, maybe at tier 7 you choose another relic and you go back and get the butler. Because then at that point you're getting 16 times the XP. Because that 10 XP that he shares with you is before the league bonuses. So if you look at his page again, in late game, you can get your crafting up insanely because you don't need, Butler Bell's processing experience per hour. You're getting 240,000 crafting experience. You're getting 48,000 herb lore experience. And these are just passively happening, right? And then the processing experience per day. What? Assuming the butler works offline and runs for an entire day, daily experience rates. Yeah, so you can get crafting to 99 in 2 days. Like I said before, you're going to be able to get almost any skill to 99 in a week. And look at this. You can have your butler do it. So you have no way that you don't have maxed out herb lore, crafting, fletching, cooking, and smithing. Period. Whether you do it or the butler does it, you're going to have those skills maxed out. It's impossible for you not to. So yeah, I think Butler's Bell. Thank you for that 9. I think Butler's Bell is a super high powered one. I like that a lot. So I wanted to look at the boosted drops, and these are based on the locations, right? So Mistalin, which is Varrock, kind of where I'm standing right now. All of those areas, you can't get there. So no Lumbridge, no Varrock, and none of the bosses that are available there are going to be available. There's a 2 times drop rate and a 5 times drop rate multiplier based on where you are in the game. So eligible sources are 5 times at tier 4, which tier 4 is going to be a really pivotal time in the game. I can't English. What's up, Bucky? Bucky, we're getting into the meat and taters right now. We're about to start talking about what drops we might get. We went through all the relics, right? And we're about to get into what drops we can get from each area, because I want to start looking at what drops we can get and then start leaning into, okay, what builds should we make based on that? Because I think that'll be really important. So Karamja, which is the first place that you unlock, and it's automatically unlocked, right? You have to unlock that area first. And then you can unlock 3 more areas after that. So Karamja is going to give you the ability to basically get all the obsidian items, which is going to be really good mid-game melee gear, which I think is going to be great. And then you can get the Draconic Visage from Steel and Iron Dragons, which is going to be great because there's a whole lot of Thorns shield builds, and there's a lot of builds that scale based on your defense stats, and the Visage has really good defense stats, so that's going to be great. What is the Gout Tuber? So rare seed. Planted an arbor requiring Edgar's roots to grow the gout seeds. The rarity of left usually means that. Okay, I don't think that I don't. That's weird. I don't need that. Okay. So here's the big thing. Once you get your tiers up, I'm going to assume we're at least tier 4, and we're going to talk about, because I'm not going to do a lot of combat stuff until tier 4, because I want to do a lot of the challenges and stuff. And so we're not going to be grinding a lot of bosses, for me at least, until we're a little bit further and we're at tier 4, which I imagine tier 4 is going to be like day 2 or 3, because we're going to crank a lot out. Bucky, I know I sent you this, but we're going to use this. We're going to crank out as many as we can, get a good idea of what's going on, and then we're going to start getting a lot of bosses. But at that point, we have a 5 times multiplier on all these. Also, you can buy all of these items with the Tokul, right? But you can also sell runes to then buy Tokul. You can transmute your easy runes into high level runes and sell those runes and get the, you know what I mean? So you can use your transmutation as a moneymaker to then buy obsidian items. So you can pretty much have maxed out obsidian and mid-game melee gear as soon as you're at tier 4, pretty much instantly. Also, if you do some early game rune crafting, you can do the same thing. Asgardian. Where is Asgardian? Asgardian. Let's see. Okay, so it's that entire left side of the map. This is Artie. The Remington area. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is Falador. So Falador, Ice Mountain. There's the Mind Altar, the Chaos Temple, Black Knight's Arena, Mage Arena, I think. Is that what that is? No, that's Berthorpe. Okay, so the Warriors Guild is there. So this is going to be where you get your Defender. Okay, so that makes more sense. So Asgardia is that whole Falador area, north and south of there. So, Bucky, you might be right. Some things have changed on the audio quality front, and I think that has to do with I told you I changed up a bunch of stuff on Streamlabs. I actually downloaded another software that will get all of the compression and everything done on my mic before it ever gets into Streamlabs. So, excuse it today. It'll get fixed before I have a whole list of things that I need to finish tonight before League starts tomorrow, and that's one of those things. So thank you for reminding me of that, because yeah. You know what, Bucky? Since you're asking about that, I'll talk real quick about the Echo bosses because obviously those are important. So the Echo bosses, I'll open one up. But yeah, to finish that up, thank you for letting me know. Um, so you get an Echo Orb, which is dropped by the regular boss, right? And then you can fight the Echo boss. The Echo boss is just a cranked up version of the previous boss. So you have to go kill the Amoxicotl a few times, and then you get the Echo, the Amoxicotl Echo, and then you roll for that Echo item, and I think here it's 1 in every 30. So once you have that, then you can go kill, or so that's not the rarity for the Echo item, but let me see. I can't remember the drop rate, if you will, of the Echo item. But once you get it, then you can go fight the Echo boss. Okay. And here's all the bosses. You have Amoxicotl, Cerberus, the Thermonuclear Smoke Devil, which is cool, Hespori, the Dagonoth Kings, which, dude, look at these things. Oh, that doesn't show, bro. They're red and they're crazy looking. They're crazy looking. You can see them in the video that Jagex put out. Yeah, it's like 1 in 25. RTC, what's up? Uh, hey, welcome everybody. I see a few people just came in. Yes, you will need the Slayer level for Slayer bosses, so it is important to lean into Slayer early. Um, and honestly, not even necessarily early because there's so many XP bonuses later in the game. So whenever you get into something, it will kind of scale with wherever you are in the game. So if you get to Slayer a little later and you just want to build up resources and stuff and prep for boss battles later, that is possible. And then by the time you get to the end of the game, you can accelerate into PVM very, very quickly. Tweed, what's up? Welcome. I know I owe you some images. You can understand why I haven't gotten those to you yet. So thank you for being patient with that. Chat is not on stream just because I've got so much on the stream and it's so small that it was kind of pointless. It wasn't showing up properly. Um, so I think actually now that we've got quite a few people on here, I'm going to turn the chat box back on and the color block. You guys get to see a stream setup live. Oh, wrong one. All right, close enough for government work, right? There we go. That's close enough. So the chat box should be rolling in there. There we go. All right, so the chat should be coming up there on the side. You guys let me know whether or not that's small. I'm sure on mobile it's absolutely useless, um, but we'll see. And then if not, if you're on PC, you can just kind of not do the full screen thing and see the whole thing. Yeah, and Bucky, I know you're on mobile. It's just it's tough with the way that I've got so much on the screen right now. Speaking of which, I need to put more logs on the fire. I'm trying to AFK fire making. We've already gotten 1 level since I've been on. We're trying to get to 99. As long as it doesn't disappear in 5 seconds. Okay. Well then, chat box, options, chat delay, hide. Shows 30 seconds. I'm going to increase it to like 50 seconds. You guys got a bunch of time to talk about it. Okay, if there's any other options or any other things you guys need with chat, just let me know. I know this is like a weird setup. There's just a ton of stuff that I wanted to put on screen. I even have my notes here up at the top. And so it's just, we're doing a lot on one screen. On mobile, this is probably terrible. So, just listen to what I say and not what I do. Half of y'all are parents, you get it. Okay, so those bosses again. Amoxicotl, Cerberus, which Cerberus drops the Fang of the Hound. Beautiful weapon. We'll talk about some of the kits that you can build out with that. Thermonuclear Smoke Devil, Hespori, Dagonoth Kings, KBD, Grotesque Guardians, Calphite Queen, and the Hunlift. So the Hunlift is going to be cool because, Bucky, you know this, and I think almost all of you have been there for at least one of my Gauntlet streams. Since we just got going with Gauntlet and Crystal Armor has got some chances of being a crazy, crazy setup, I think we might grind some some Hun lift right from the beginning and do a lot of really cool stuff. So yeah, the Fang is insane, and we'll talk about each of these. So Amoxyotl drops the Infernal Tecpatl. It uses all three melee styles, and has a 10% Demon Bane, and is a multi-hitting special attack similar to the Dragon Claws. It has a 1 in 30 chance of dropping. So it's got basically like a pity rate. You will get the weapon if you kill the Echo Amoxyotl 30 times. You will get the weapon, so that's cool. Echo Hunlift is awesome. You skip the prep phase, but it has a tough mechanic. I think I can do it, Tweed. I think I can do it. I think I'm a gauntlet master. I've done one CG. One. But I think that's going to be a really cool one. The Amoxyotl, that if you are going to do a good melee attack or a melee one, that's a good one. It's a two-handed weapon, and there are a whole bunch of really good setups for two-handed weapons, and we'll talk about that once we get into that part of it. Cerberus, the Echo Cerberus is awesome. You can see here, he looks so cool. You can get the pet and stuff from that as well. That drops the Fang of the Hound. The Fang of the Hound is a one-handed dagger, and it has a 5% chance to cast Flames of Cerberus at the target. That is a fire elemental attack. And then you can lean into fire attacks, which have a chance of bouncing. So your melee can then start to have magic attack bonuses. And Crystal Armor applies all of its damage bonuses to melee weapons in this league. So if you get Crystal Armor, and then you have Fang of the Hound, and you lean into fire damage, which spreads to other people, and you lean into the one-handed weapons, having, where's it at? If you're, yeah, melee weapons under 1 kilogram attack 1 tick faster. So if the weapon is lightweight, it attacks faster. And it spreads its damage, and you can do a whole bunch of stuff with thorns and stuff like that. We'll talk about those in a moment. But this has the chance to be kind of the OP weapon in the game. And I want to lean into both magic and DPS from melee. So this is a really good one. It has a base max hit of 10 when it does that Flames of Cerberus, which can be increased with elemental weakness and magic strength. So if you're leaning into magic gear, you can do a lot of damage with this. When the effect is triggered, the magic damage is dealt without needing to pass a secondary accuracy check. So as soon as you hit the first time, it is going to hit the magic attack no matter what. So it's kind of like a melee weapon that has the passive attack of the Twin Flame Staff built in, but the secondary attack is magic. So it's kind of a little bit crazy. Also benefits from the packs and the creature's elemental fire weakness. So there are packs where it will kind of double down on the elemental weaknesses of certain monsters, and the Fang of the Hound will allow you to kind of lean into those a lot. So the Fang of the Hound, I think, is going to be one that a lot of people go for. It's a 1 in 25. 5% chance to hit that unique fire spell, and then it has an instant hit special attack similar to the Granite Maul, has a 100% chance of casting that unique fire spell. So you can get the fire spell procced, and then immediately hit your spec, no tick wait or anything, immediately hit your spec again. And then there's a whole bunch of things where if you do like a magic attack, it could proc and do healing and stuff like that. So you could use your Fang to use magic attacks that will heal you or do extra damage, or you can do thorns damage. There's a whole host of things you can do. That has the potential to be a really strong one. Thermonuclear Smoke Devil, just a larger one. There's a whole bunch of new mechanics that come with this one as well. This is apparently going to be a really, really tough one. It has 2 unique drops. So this is going to be one that I feel like Kandarin is going to be one that I want to unlock because it's got 2 different things. The Devil's Element, which is a shield weapon, or a shield slot. It grants an additional 30% damage, elemental weakness, to all elements, to all targets, including targets without a natural elemental weakness. So if you don't have an elemental weakness, you suddenly have a 30% elemental weakness. Just out of nowhere. and then you can scale that elemental weakness with the other packs. You can avoid all its damage by praying correctly and standing in the circles. Oh, for the Hunlef, you mean? Or were you talking about thermonuclear smoke devil? So thermonuclear smoke devil is going to be a great one. So you can basically apply elemental weakness for thermo. So thermal is good. Yeah. So it sounds like if you avoid all of its damage by praying correctly and standing in the circles. So from what I saw in the video, there's kind of thermonuclear devil in the middle, and there's a whole bunch of spots around the outside, kind of like moons and stuff like that, where there's those spots around the outside. And if you stand in the correct one, you don't take damage. So I like that one a lot. I think that's going to be a not easy, but a relatively good boss battle. And you have a 1 in 25 chance of it dropping the Devil's Element and the Shadow Flame Quadrant. The Shadow Flame Quadrant is the one that I'm kind of freaking out about, because if you do a magic build, this is going to be insane. So it provides infinite air, water, earth, and fire runes. So it's like a twin flame staff, but it provides all the runes infinitely, right? Elemental spells cast from the standard spell book cast for a second time for 40% damage. So it's again like the twin flame staff. So basically it's twin flame, but it's with every single spell on the standard spell book. Spells treat all of its target's elemental weaknesses as equal to their highest weakness. So whatever you have you've built into is what is going to do a ton of damage. So it's automatically going to, I don't think it automatically casts the correct spell, if that makes sense. So if they're weak to fire, I don't think it casts a fire spell. You can still cast a water spell. I don't know yet whether or not the rune regeneration counts for this, because you're not actually using the runes. So will you be regenerating the runes? And we'll talk about that once we get in there. But the Shadow Flame Quadrant is going to be an insane weapon. Perked with the Devil's Element, this could be really, really insane. Hespori Echo is going to be fun. It's just a harder version of Hespori. There's a lot more of the little spores on the ground that you have to protect against. You're going to have to change prayers a whole lot more, but it drops the Nature's Recurve. It's a 3-tick attack speed, so it's going to be 2-tick on rapid. 50% chance to restore your prayer points and hit points equal to 10% of the damage dealt, rounded out. There's also a really good bow build that I have set up. I call it the Bofa build, where your bow has some pretty insane setup options. So I was thinking about leaning into magic and the bow, because then I can do early to mid game Hespori, and then if I get lucky, you know, I use the Nature's Recurve bow kind of early to mid game, probably mid to late game, let's be honest. And then a Bofa build late game, because then you have the bow option there. So I like that one a lot. It gives you some survivability that you're not going to get from the other demonic packs stuff. So I think it's a bow that's going to give you a lot of survivability, especially if you stack it with other packed things. Dagonauts. I think Dagonauts is going to be one where we're going to have to unlock Fremennik. There's also a lot of other stuff from the Fremennik area that I'm thinking about. So I think Kandarin for sure, Fremennik maybe, and then we'll see. I probably want to do Turan one as well. But it's got a 5% chance to reduce any incoming hit to 0. There's also a thing over here that has the chance of, where's it at? Where's it at? Oh, there we go. We have a chance to, when the shield is equipped, you have a 0.1% chance per defense level to reflect all damage back to the attacker. So stacked with that, you're going to have a lot of chance to not take any damage, and that's going to be really nice. The damage reducing effect activates causes the next special attack within 60 seconds to have no cost. So then you get a free spec, which is nice. And then it functions as an imbued Slayer Helm. So you can use it with anything. So I think in terms of just getting kind of best in slot gear, I think that's going to be a really, really great one. So Dagonoth Kings is going to be a good one to do. It's a 1 in 25 drop. Plus, I think it looks pretty cool. Well, you don't get anything by that tiny little picture, but yeah, the Dagonoth Kings are going to be a tough one. I've never faced the Dagonoth Kings, so I don't know anything about them. Here's a cool one. King Black Dragon is going to drop the King's Barrage. It splits its attack into two as a multi-hit weapon. So one of them just hits with a standard attack. The second one freezes the target for up to 24 ticks, which is 14 seconds, and can be toggled. So you can toggle it on and off if you don't want to freeze the target. The second hit can scale with water weaknesses and packs, because the packs for ice spells can be used as water. And that's this one right here. Ice spells now count as water spells. So you can do a crossbow build, which is this middle pack here. And we'll talk a lot more about this. So if you're confused on what I'm saying, don't worry about it. We will get into it. But you can do a crossbow one here, which has a thing that makes sure that you always hit for max hit. So we'll talk about that. And you can lean in so that if you have that secondary weakness for counts as water spells, it hitting really high can also heal you, because water spells can bounce back to you, healing you for 60% of the damage dealt to the target. So you're going to hit really high, you're going to have a guaranteed hit, and you're going to heal yourself when you do it. That could be a really powerful one to do a lot of really high DPS. And think about it, if you pair that with other things like these helmets, stuff like that, could be great. Deals full damage to the Corporal Beast as a Corp Bane weapon. So it's going to be great for Corporal Beast if you want to go toward that. Grotesque Guardian's Echo is going to give you the Lithic Spectre. Now, this is actually going to be a really good one, and I want to look into this, especially as I'm going through it. But the build stacks for a unique special attack on hits, and then the special attack consumes 5 of those stacks to damage enemies within 3 tiles for a typeless damage, with a minimum hit of 10. So it builds up kind of a spec over time. When you use the spec, it's got a chance of hitting massive amounts of damage. You can also get one-handed weapons. You can get them to, or magic weapons, you can get them to hit faster. And then there's a whole bunch of other things you can do, which we'll talk about the builds you can build up with that. So Mauritania, there's a whole bunch of other things you can get in this area that are good in terms of armor and stuff. So we'll talk about that, because you can make a really stacked armor set and weapon set with that one. Kalphite Queen drops the Drygore Blowpipe. It performs an accuracy check twice, similar to that of the Ismunten's Fang, so you're pretty much going to hit a lot. And then has a 25% chance to apply burn on hit. So if you're hitting a target for a long time, you want to apply some burn damage. This is going to, and it's going to do an accuracy check twice. So if they've got really high defense, it's going to be a good idea. Corrupted Hunlef, you were talking about that one a second ago. I'll pause that real quick. 9 says you can watch a lot of videos from the Echo Leagues to see how you fight them. So I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of that research tonight and over the next few days. We might even watch a few videos on stream if we can. I'll look up the rules. I don't know what the rules are for watching videos on stream. You gotta like pause every 30 seconds or whatever. But the Corrupted Hunlef, you get the Crystal Blessing. This goes in your ammo slot, and it extends the accuracy and damage bonus effects of the crystal armor to all melee weapons and powered staves. What? So imagine, like I said, you get the crystal weapon armor apply, which is the increased bonus to what was it? It's the, let me look. I'm forgetting the whole bonus thing. Where'd it go? All right, so armor pieces start off with the thing. There we go. Hunlef is a tough one for new people, specifically have focused on one build. You need prayer penetration. So that is something I want to talk about, because the prayer penetration is going to be really important, especially if you don't build into multiple classes. So where'd the enhancement cost? Where's the bonus effect? Oh, because this is just showing crystal equipment. I want the crystal armor set. I don't remember what the bonus is, but it's like increased attack percentage and stuff like that. Basically, that blessing is going to make, oh, there we go. Adds magic attack and bonus damage to crystal armor, which can be multiplied by the tunic and shadow. So the shadow, if you were wondering, is going to be a very, very powerful weapon in this league. That has a 1 in 15 chance. So if you can defeat the Corrupted Hunlef, the Echo version, 15 times, you can maybe get the Crystal Blessing, and that'll be worth it. So these are all going to be tough bosses. There's no doubt about that. Some will be easier than others. Some are safe spottable in some ways and things like that. Not really safe spottable, but you know what I mean. But all of these are really good, and they all have something that you can build into on the next thing. What I wanted to look at is the also there's combo drops. So a lot of the things that instead of dropping the Venator ring, and instead the Leviathan will drop the Venator vestige. So anything that would drop in a small thing, uh, or vice versa. So instead of a Raxor dropping the Fang, it drops the Rancor. You don't have to craft a lot of those things anymore. Um, Here's what I wanted to look at was the other drops that you get. Uh, we're gonna go down to here. Give me a second to find it. It's the eligible resources. There we go. Or eligible sources. So these are all the things that, and this is what I was looking at before. I think, yeah, I already had that page up. So these are the things you can get from all those bosses besides that, and these are things that are affected in those areas. So we talked about, getting, let's go back to that. I'm going to pull up, here we go. So we talked about, if I get Nature's Recurve, well, I have to unlock Kourend for that. So what are the other things that I can unlock in Kourend in terms of armor? So Kebos and Kourend. We can get all of these things. You can get the Warm Gloves, Burma Torch, Pyromancer outfit, Tome of Fire. That's important if you want to have, the burnt pages and all of that. If you don't get the Barbarian training thing, you might need a Dragon Harpoon at some point. Bone Crusher necklace, Ferocious gloves, Dragon Hunter lance. Let's see, and these all have increased drop rates, so we'll talk about that in a second. Draconic Visage, the Seracnus Cudgel, so if you want a good crush weapon. Bottomless Compost bucket, if you're not going to lean into too much of the other training there for herb lore and farming, you might want to grab that. Dragon Hosta, Abyssal Whip, Abyssal Dagger. So then, if I know that I'm going to unlock Kebos and Kourend so that I can get the Nature's Recurve, right? Then I know that I also can get all of these things. And I don't see any super high range armor in there. Am I missing something? So if I don't have range armor there, now I have to make sure that I have something else, some other area that can provide me with super high level range armor so that I'm not missing out on the bonuses there. So you have to kind of think about the synergy between the areas. Not only what Echo boss you're going to fight, but then what other bosses you're going to fight in that area, such as Wintertodt, Chambers, Hydra, Seracnus, all those others, so that I can get the weapons and stuff and armor that I need to get those. And there's increased drop rates here. So by the time you get to tier 4, Pyromancer outfit is 1 in 30. You're going to crank through Wintertodt pretty quick. Burnt Page, 1 in 9. Dragon Sword and Harpoon is still 1 in 2,000, but it's not 1 in 10,000. So Ferocious Gloves, 1 in 102 at the Alchemical Hydra. So we're going to have options of getting, the Bottomless Bucket goes down to 1 in 7. That's just insane to me. And then Oathplate Armor, here's a really important one. Oathplate Armor goes down to 1 in 120. So if you're doing a melee build and you want Oathplate, really good there. Tweety said you did Cerberus, DK, CG, GG, and KBD last year. They were all pretty cool fights and tough too. That's what I'm looking forward to. So one thing the Judicator said, and he's not with us today because he doesn't want any spoilers. I also really need to keep burning stuff. One thing that he said is that this is a good chance to fight bosses that I otherwise have not had a chance to fight. I'm still very new coming back to RuneScape. There's a lot that I don't know. I feel good about my chances of being good at some of the higher level bosses because I've adapted pretty quickly to certain ones so far. Like I feel like I did pretty well at CG. I got it on like my 5th try, and that's while streaming. And anyone who's ever streamed before, there's a few of you that have, it's tough to try to commentate and kill a boss at the same time, which admittedly on that last CG kill, I just locked it in and completely ignored chat. But so I like my chances of maybe being able to kill these bosses and stuff like that, but I don't know for sure. And this is a chance to use kind of these experimental setups to just go fight a bunch of bosses I otherwise haven't had the chance to fight yet. I think this will also inform how I manage my main account going forward. And it will also inform how I do a lot of Iron Man stuff later. I'm going to see how difficult it is and where certain stores are and things like that for doing Iron Man related stuff. And I'm going to be like, hey, this isn't going to be anything like Leagues. I got to figure out a different way of doing this. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I definitely think we'll get into Yama this time around because I do think I'm going to unlock this area. Um, but there's a whole lot of other ones. So I want to go through real quick and talk about some of those areas and what other things they unlock. So if you want Armadillo armor for range, you have to unlock Esgarnia. Bandos armor, so if you and all of the god swords, there's a pact in here where if you have it's called blind bag, where if you have other heavy weapons in your inventory, it increases the damage that you can do. You definitely want a lot of these god swords and stuff like that, and big heavy weapons if you want to do that. Said you're on the tweet. You said you got the right mindset for sure with the task to unlock packs. I think it's a good road for League. Yeah, I want to have fun and just do a whole bunch of stuff I've never done before. A different boss every day. You know, it's going to be fun, and that's kind of how I run my main channel. But I kind of stretch things out a little further. I'm not going to need to do that. Every day is going to be a learning curve for us. It's going to be insane. I'm going to have a headache every day. It's going to be crazy. Um, so we have all of the different Armadillo and Sarah weapons, Steam Battle Staff, Dragon Boots, so some, kind of mid-level melee gear. If you want the Zerite stuff or Torba armor, you're going to need to do Nex, which means you're going to have to unlock Asgarnia. Bellator ring, so if you want to fight Whisper, get the Virtus robes. I like the idea of unlocking Asgarnia because you get Torva and Virtus. But Asgarnia here is Cerberus, which is the Fang, right? Which is going to be awesome because then you're going to have super high melee stats, super high defense stats. You're going to have a 3-tick weapon that you can turn into a 2-tick weapon. And then you're going to have a magic build on top of that. And you could probably do a pretty heavy build in terms of like health regeneration off of that. And so that I think will be really cool. So Asgarnia, I think, is going to be a really good one. I'm actually going to put that in the notes here. Cerberus Blade and Cerberus Blade, Torva, and Virtus. So, and that means that I'm going to have to go fight Whisperer, which I've never done. I'm going to have to fight Nex, which I've never done. And that also means that Torva armor drops 1 in 51 at Nex. So if I want to do some solo, solo Nex is going to be crazy. But also, I do know that there's a whole bunch of people, especially in the clan, who want to do some of these bosses together, and I think that's going to be fun. Even like Max or Mass Nex is going to be useful. So that's going to be good. Whisper is going to be good. You're going to get a Bellator ring. Uh, it's a warrior ring, basically, but it is plus 12 instead, which is going to be great. Royal Titans is there, so if you want to do some mid-level, get a good staff right off the bat, and kind of lean into magic early, the Fire Staff crown at tier 4 is 1 in 15. I've done solo Titans a million times. We're going to crank right through that. It's going to be awesome. Fremennik Province. So Fremennik Province is the Dagonoth Kings, which is going to give you the V's helm, which acts as that Slayer helm and gives you a chance of denying damage basically when you get hit. Dragon Bone Necklace, Draconic and Skeletal Visages from Vorkath. Dagonoth Kings will be in that area, so you'll get all the Dagonoth rings, which I think will be really good. And then the non-ring unique stuff, so like the Fremennik helms and stuff like that. Those are going to be pretty useful. I think Fremennik area is really good for kind of mid game leading into late game, because a lot of these are going to be kind of mid to high level items. You have Virtus robes here you can get from Duke, so I could fight Duke, which I've never fought. Virtus robes are 1 in 144 there. Awakener's Orb, Ancient Spectre, and then Venator Shard. So if you want to do the Venator bow, it's 1 in every 20 for those shards. So if I want to fight Muspah. So I like Fremennik. You have Vorkath, Dagonoth Kings, Basilisk, Brine Rat, which we don't really care about that, Duke, and Phantom, or Muspah. So a whole bunch of really good bosses in the Fremennik area. I don't think I'm going to go for the Fremennik area. I don't think I want the V's helm. I'm not going to go too far into Slayer when it comes to that, so I'm not feeling like I need that. So let's go to Kandarin. Kandarin is going to be this thermonuclear smoke devil. Uh, fishing stuff, which we don't need. There's going to be tortured gorilla, demonic gorilla, which is going to be a whole bunch of the ballista stuff. So if you do a pack that goes down into the crossbows, the ballista counts as a crossbow. So you can kind of dig into that as well, and you can get that heavy frame. And the demonic gorillas can basically make you a weapon that will hit very, very high. Trident of the Sea is going to be really good. So the Kraken is going to be really important. There's also a few challenges for the Kraken that will get you more points toward your demonic packs. So that's important. The occult necklace will drop from the smoke devil and the nuclear one. So that's at 1 and 102. So if you're going to do that anyway, and you want to get these two weapons, then you're also going to get the occult necklace, which is great for magic. So to me, Kandarin is a really good unlock. You get the Zenite shard, which is going to be able to get us some Zenite jewelry, which I think is going to be great. You have some mid-level stuff, so I can kill mithril dragons. Or wait, what? The dragon helm full helm is 1 in 6,000. That's insane. That just caught me off guard. I was like, huh? That's wild. But hellhounds also can get you smoldering stones. So there's a lot of stuff here that I have never fought. But the Kraken tentacle is really good. Uncharged Trident, Trident of the Seas, and then ballista stuff. So I think this one is important because you're gonna get the occult necklace, which I think is important, and you get these two, which are really good. So the thermonuclear smoke devil for me, Kandarin is kind of I'm gonna have to unlock that one. It's gonna give me several staffs. It's gonna be good for me along the way. So I don't like that it doesn't drop a lot of armor for me, but I don't need to because Torva and Virtus drops from Asgarnia. So Kandarin is a plus plus plus, and we'll look at that again later. Caridian Desert. This is the the Calphite area. So this one is that Dragor blowpipe, and it's the one that the blowpipe that basically works as in his Muntin's Fang, gives you super high attack chance, and then applies burn damage. Dragon Full Helm is also a 400-point task, and a lot of people choose not to do. See, I didn't know it was a 400-point task, and these are the things you're going to learn along the way. So it might be worth it, since I'm going to unlock it anyway. It might be worth it to go kill a bunch of mithril dragons, and get the the Dragon Full Helm and the Draconic Visage. Because if I'm going to kill a ton of them, I'm pretty sure there's a task for the Draconic Visage as well. What I'm going to do tonight, before I get on tomorrow, is I'm going to take each area that I think I've decided I want to go into, and I'm going to write down all the tasks that go with that area, or at least because there's the tasks thing here, and there's a whole bunch of these tasks. So I'm going to highlight and change and move a lot of these around. I'll probably move some of them into a spreadsheet or something, but I'm going to take all of the general ones that are global, that have to do with skilling, and I'm going to try to crank out a bunch of those in the first day or two. And then I want to, as I start to boss mid-level, I want to know kind of what I'm getting into, so that I can do a lot of the bossing mid-level and do what you said, where I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to spend a day and I'm going to kill 5,000 of this, and I'm going to do a 12-hour day of just killing those. And maybe that's a little overzealous, and I may not do that, but but that's a good point. Is that doing these things that a lot of other people might not do could be really useful. All right, Caridian Desert. Let's go ahead and reload on some more redwood logs before we do that. Caridian Desert, I think, is pretty cool. Dust Devil, you can get the chain body from them. Calphite Queen, you can get the Calphite Queen head, which is cool. I'm pretty sure there's an achievement for that. TOA, all the unique rewards. Now remember, if you're running TOA, anytime anybody gets a purple, you all get a purple. So TOA is going to become crazy. It's a 1 in 10 chance of getting all the TOA stuff. So a Light Bearer, Asmunten's Fang, and then what's the other one? What is this? I know it's all unique rewards. Let's see. Tunic and Shadow. That's what I thought it was. So TOA is going to be amazing. It's going to be hard for me not to run. I kind of want to run TOA on my regular account. So if I don't run it here, I won't be upset about it. But there's a lot. The Shadow, the Fang, and what are those armor pieces? Masori. What is Masori? See how little I know about the game? It's just the, oh, that's just the Masori body. Okay, what is the whole Masori set? Okay, not that bad, but so it's the range bonus. So since I'm not really going into range, I probably won't need to do Masori. But if you're running into range, then it might be worth it for you to do Caridian because you're going to get a lot of, if you're doing range magic, this might be a good one. You get the Venator ring at the Leviathan, that's 1 in 153. Awakener's Orb, Virtus Robes again, 1 in 153 from Leviathan. I do like the idea of running Leviathan. It also unlocks Temperos, which means you're going to get a lot of fishing and cooking levels really early, and you can use your transmutation to turn those fish into anything you want, which is really good. Tome of Water would be good, and then Guardians of the Rift would be really good for rune crafting. So if you're going to do a mage range build, it might be worth it to do TOA. If you're going to do a stab heavy or spec heavy build, then you probably want to do Caridian Desert because then you can do the Light Bearer and all the other stuff from TOA. Or if you just want to run TOA a lot with your buddies and see what kind of builds work, then that could be really useful. So Caridian is not off the, it's not off the table, but it depends on what a lot of other people in the clan and stuff want to do. Mauritania, I think Mauritania is a pretty good one. If you want to do, I'm leaning heavily toward maybe doing, without Asgardia, you can't complete Masori, but it's still good. Okay, so think about that too as well. Nine said without Asgardia, you can't finish the Masori F, which I just saw that there as well, that what that is. So I'll have to look into Masori, but if you're going to do that, you know, think also as well, and that's why I kind of want to look at this. There are certain things you won't be able to finish unless you have access to certain areas, and I don't want to get caught doing something that I need something different for. So, Ring of Endurance, you don't really need that because you don't run out of anything. So Ring of Endurance is kind of silly here, but it is 1 in 40. The Barrows pieces become 1 in 20 instead of 1 in 102, which basically means you're going to greenlock Barrows in 15 seconds. It's going to be crazy. TOB, you get the Avernic Defender, I think. Yeah, Avernic Defender hilt, but you don't get the hilt. You get the full Defender now. Scythe, if you're gonna do, so in here, there's a thing where you can do halberds, and the Scythe, I believe, counts as a halberd, right? I'm not crazy in that. Basically, you're able to reach out 7 tiles away by having a two-handed weapon, basically. So the melee range is doubled whilst using a two-handed weapon, and then you add another 2 tiles on with another one of these, and then it's gonna, yeah, here we go. I missed it. So if your melee attack range is 4, which it will be because it's already 2, and then you're doubling it on this one. Wait, where'd you go? Yeah, doubled while using a two-handed weapon. So now your scythe becomes a 4-tile ranged weapon. That's going to put it up to 7. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that gives you bonuses based on how far you are from things. So melee becomes a bit of a ranged weapon. So if you're lucky enough to get a scythe and you do this, and you build into the blind bag, which is when you use other heavy weapons to increase your damage, you can hit really high and hit a lot with the scythe. So I think unlocking Mauritania could be really useful. Plus, Granite Ring, Granite Gloves, Barrows, the Black Mask, Blood Shards, Nightmare Staff, Full Inquisitor's Armor, the Inquisitor's Mace. There's the Shades of Morton mini quest there. You have Amulet of Rancor, all the Noxious Halley pieces, Arene Boots, Granite Maul, Brittle Key, like all of this. So Araxar, Gargoyles, Frasani's Nightmare, Firewatch Sentinels, Theater of Blood, Grotesque Guardians, and Barrows. So Mauritania has a ton to offer. What's more important there is that you get the Lithic Spectre. So if you want to lean into magic, that's a really good place to go. Mid-game, you're going to get a chance to get a lot of Barrows stuff, which could be good. So this could be Mauritania could be a good one to get you through the mid game to where you want to be at the end game. You said, but halberds are already 2, so they go to 4 and then 7. Yeah. Yeah. Does the scythe count as a halberd? That was my question. Is does it count as a halberd? Let's click on that real quick. Powerful scythe. I don't think it counts as a halberd. I will look into that. I think the scythe and the halberd are separate. It would make sense. Got you. Scythe goes 2 and then might be doubled. So the scythe does not give all those bonuses. Okay, so then I take that back, and thank you, Nine, for pointing that out. So yeah, the halberd would be doubled from 2 to 4 and then go to 7, whereas the scythe would be doubled, but it would never go to 4, and then yeah, so it would go to 2, which just wouldn't be enough. You could use it to use spec energy and stuff like that, which could be good. Okay, so if you want Justiciar, that's still useful. I don't think Mauritania for me. I may not do Mauritania. I like Asgarnia for Torva and Virtus, and then I like Kandarin because it gives me a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm really going to need. So I like that one for that. Turanwin, I like this one because you get the, I talked about wanting to get the Crystal Blessing. Imagine that Cerberus Blade, the Fang of the Hound. Imagine that with all those extra bonuses and everything that you get, and then you have put crystal armor on it, and crystal armor will work for powered staves as well. So all melee weapons and powered staves can have the crystal armor effect by having that crystal blessing. So I like the idea of Turanwin, but also it gives you can get the Elven Signet from Crystal Implings. You can run the Gauntlet. You can run Corrupted Gauntlet. You can do Zolcano, which there's some challenges for that. You can run Zulrah, which gives you the Tanzanite Fang, Serpentine Visage, which will automatically be crafted into the respective things. You can get Onyx, so you can get, the Onyx jewelry. You can get the Dark Bow from the Dark Beast. You can get Dragonstone armor, which is 1 in 500 from Enhanced Crystal chests. You will get Enhanced Crystal Teleport seeds from Thieving, and then you can break those down and do all kinds of different things with those. Get the Mist Battle Staff, which will be, from Water Fiends, which would be a good early game weapon, and then you get the Leaf Bladed weapons. So not a ton of armor and stuff here, but definitely, other than the, obviously the crystal armor. You do get the Toxic Trident, which charge stabs. There's a lot of builds for that. You're going to get Tanzanite Fang and Serpentine Visage, which is going to be useful. And then Dragonstone Armor, which I don't think we'll be using that. But you do get those enhanced teleport crystals. So if you lean into the thieving and you get that 20 times bonus, then you're getting the enhanced crystal teleport seeds, which can be broken down, I think, into 100 crystals. Also exchange it for 150 crystal shards by speaking to Amrod. So imagine that you get 20 crystals. That's 3,000 or 30,000. How do I math? So yeah, 150 times 20. Yeah, 3,000. So you're going to get 3,000 crystal shards every time you get an enhanced crystal teleport seed. So yeah, it does apply to this item. So it plants 2 seeds for everyone, and then by the time you have the 10 times bonus. So this could be insane for thieving if you go to this area, and then you'll have a ton of crystal shards, which means you can maintain your armor. So I really like this one. Turanwin for me, crystal armor. There is a bow setup that I kind of want to mess with, and so it depends. If I lean bow and magic, which would make gauntlet easier for me, and then do a lot of hit through prayer, I think that could be really useful. But then if I switch and do melee then I might switch it up and do it a little differently there. But I think no matter what, that's good. Wilderness, I have no intention of doing wilderness. If you guys have been here for any period of time at all, you know that I don't enjoy doing anything wilderness, but I'll go over it for you guys. Let's get a log burning real quick. And then 26 more. All right. Revenants, which will give you a whole bunch of ancient artifacts, ancient crystal. Revenants will give you and magic seeds, which will be good for farming. Malediction ward, so if you're going into magic and you want that magic percent bonus on top of all the other magic percent bonuses that are going to be given to you for your build, Chaos Fanatic, Crazy Archaeologist, and Scorpio will all be out there. I think that each of them has the chance of dropping all of the Odium shards, but I could be wrong on that. Dragon Boots, there is a achievement for putting on a dragon two or equipping a dragon two-hand sword in the wilderness, and there's a 1 in 12 chance from the Chaos Elemental. So that could be a really good way to get, I think it's like 200 points. Dragon Pickaxe, all the Void Waker pieces. So if you want to do Void Waker, that's the way to do it. The Tyrannical Ring and Treasonous Ring and the Ring of the Gods. Okay, you drop no items on death. So people aren't incentivized to try to kill you. So the wilderness just becomes another part of the map. That's cool because I hate the wilderness for that reason. So you can attack other players, but there's no point. There's no point in attacking anybody else. People are just going to grief you, just to grief you. So whatever. I do like this because there's Dagon High robes. I have Dagon High robes on my main account. I like them. The Arcane Sigil, Draconic Visage, Amulet of Eternal Glory. It's still 1 in 5,000 instead of 1 in 25,000, which is nice. You get the Abyssal Whip and the Abyssal Dagger. So if you go into the light or one-handed weapons track, you can do that. Dragon Chain Body, again, for Dust Devils and Hellhounds. You can, get the Smoldering Stone from them. And then, the Elder Chaos Robes, which are pretty cool. So I don't really think I need to do anything wilderness related. I think I'm going to get everything from other places, but, still could be very good. We talked about Kebos and Karend. So, but also real quick, Wilderness gets the King Black Dragon weapon, which is that multi-hit weapon. And there are a bunch of mage things here, but remember, you can have that weapon do a water attack when it shoots its ice attack. So if you're going to lean into magic and range with a crossbow and then magic with water, you can really build into that, and then you can get a whole bunch of the magic armor and stuff like that comes from Wilderness. So you can get Dagon High robes, and from the Wilderness get the King's Barrage, and be able to kind of synergize those two together. So if you're going to go Wilderness for the KBD weapon, then just know you should probably lean into magic as well, because you're going to get some pretty decent robes. Kebos and Karend. What do we get out of that? Karend is a Spori. So I've looked into this because I thought about doing a Spori because I thought about doing a bow build. So Wintertod is good. You'll get fire making pretty quickly. You'll get a bunch of decent melee weapons, including the Dragon Hunter Lance. You can get Ferocious Gloves. You can get the Bone Crusher Necklace. You can get the Saragnas Cudgel, so you can have a really, really, really good crush weapon. I think we went over a lot of these, so I'm not going to do too much of this. But the Abyssal Dagger, which would be really good for that lightweight, single-handed weapon, 2-tick weapon, tons of specs. It can be really good for that. You'll also get Oathplate, which is great. And it drops pretty quickly. So if you want to do Karend, there's a chance for really good melee gear, I feel like. So if you want to do melee and ranged, Karend could be good because you're going to get the Nature's Recurve from Hispori, and you'll get a whole bunch of good melee gear, including Oathplate armor. So that's a good one. If you want to do the melee build that does a lot of thorns, and then do like a bow build with a lot of thorns defense and recoil, basically, you can do a lot of things that are based off of your defense stats. And then Oathplate armor, as you can see, has really high defense stats. So there's some things that take your combined stats. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 40. So then you can like heal basically 7 every time you do like a recoil thing, and I'll walk you guys through that. So Oathplate could be really good. I think it's worth facing Yama. It could be very, very, very good. Varlamore. Varlamore, everybody has access to, right? And so everybody has access to the Demon Bane weapon, which allows you to hit in all attack styles. So I think that's pretty cool. That's going to be a good one, but let's go through what you can get. So Abyssal Demons, you can get the Abyssal Whip and the Abyssal Dagger, which means you can do some good melee builds. You can get all of the Moons of Peril stuff, which I think mid game and even going toward late game could be really good. There's a few Atlatl builds with thrown weapons that I could see doing really, really good. Two-handed weapons have the ability to hit from farther away, and they have bonuses for the farther that you hit away. So if you're doing something that's Atlatl and strength based, because the Atlatl is strength based, and you want to do something that has a lot of strength damage, you could stick with Moons of Peril pretty much through a lot of stuff. So you can get armor pretty early and then crank through a lot of content in the game. So I think that could be a really good one. The Glacial Tomatli from the Frost Naguas, that could be really good. Sulfur Blades, that's another two-handed weapon that could be really good. Huey Kotalhide, you can have some pretty decent stuff. Tome of Earth, Dragon Hunter Wad. So if you want to do magic build and you want to go against dragons and do stuff like that, that's a really good one. Soul Reaper axe pieces, the Altor Ring, Virtus Robes. So if you want to do magic for Varlamore is going to be great. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff, bowstring spool and stuff like that, and then the Hunter's Guild loot sack rares as well. So there's a whole. I think the big things here are the Virtus Robes, Dragon Hunter Wand, Sulfur Blades. Varlamore, I think, is going to have pretty much everything for early and mid game. Everyone's going to have access to it, and everyone's going to be fine. There's a really good weapon. There's tons of other content. I think that you can lean into just about anything right off the bat and figure it out in Varlamore before you ever unlock anything else. So the Fortis Coliseum will drop things much, much faster, and so will Doom. So I have Ayak, Avernic Treads, the Sunfire Fanatic Armor, which I'm not mistaken has a huge prayer bonus. And there's something over here that will build into prayer bonus. So if you want to do that, that could be pretty darn good. So I like all of those. Hopefully you guys get a bit of an understanding as to kind of synergizing between what you're unlocking with your new areas, what echo boss you're going to be able to face, and then what other bosses are available in that area to supplement that. So, and you have to think about what resources and stuff are going to be available in each of those areas. You might need to unlock an area just so you can get your skills done. But I have a feeling, especially with transmutation and a whole bunch of other stuff, I have a feeling that it won't be impossible to level everything up. And by the end of the game, you're getting 16 times the XP for pretty much everything. So I think concentrating on early and mid game will mean that your late game is going to be fine. So what I would do is, and this is what I'm doing as a complete newbie, and please tell me if I'm thinking incorrectly here. I'm going to build out my locations based on the bosses I want to face and the end game build that I want to eventually have. And then I'm going to figure out how, between now and tomorrow, I'm going to figure out how to max all of my other skills and gain resources and all that other stuff using transmutation and certain collecting and all that other stuff. Use that to max out my skills in those areas. And so what I'm going to have to problem solve is, how do I get all the money and everything I need and all the food and potions and everything I need to deal with late game bosses, and how do I build that up in the early and mid game? And then how do I stack these things? How do I come in here and go to Asgarnia and get Bandos armor? Okay, well, I got to go to General Grodor and I got to figure out how to do that. And then I'll have full Bandos. And then how do I want to build this build? Knowing that when I'm at the point where I'm unlocking my first location, I'm only going to have like 8 of these points. So how am I managing my early points? And how is that going to stack with the things I've actually got unlocked? And so that's what I want to do over the next few days, or the next day, basically. There are 2 things that I wanted to look at here in terms of late game builds. I want to look at this one. So this one is a bow build, and pretty much going only into bows. And it's a late game maxed out bow build. What I was thinking here is that early game, get the Crystal Bow, and then mid game, if you can get the Bofa, great, right? And then there's a whole bunch of other, Twisted Bow, things like that that you can get from other areas. Here's where this one, I won't go too much into this. I'll show you the big ones, but then I'll show you the stats here on the side. So the main one, it actually might be worth it to start with just the middle of this and just show you how things are built. So everybody, when they start out, you have a 50% chance to regenerate runes, ammo, and charges, right? So that's great for mage and range. It doesn't really do anything for melee, but still good. And regenerate means whenever you use runes to cast a spell, and this is what makes me think that certain, like the, okay, real quick, 9 says that if you manage to train your Slayer high enough for Kandarin, then Kandarin will give you another 7 easy points. And I think I know what you're talking about there, because for Kandarin, here's all the unlocks that you get. You get the Artie Diary. Notable drops here. Okay, and that's the one where you get a whole bunch of the... Yeah, ton here. So, I mean, there's the Dragon Full Helm one. I'm pretty sure there's one for the Dragon Chain Body. There's a whole bunch of extra points you can get. And I kind of want to work with Slayer. So Kandarin to me isn't completely off the table. Again, I've got to go through all these balance things tonight and find out what's going to be best for me. But, okay, so whenever you use runes to cast a spell, fire ammunition from a ranged weapon, or consume charges in a charged weapon, there's a % chance to generate an additional resource spent. So if you've got, let's say you fire a water weapon, right? Whenever your combat spells regenerate runes, your magic level is boosted by 1 for 30 ticks. So if you're using a spell that's regenerating 1 rune, then you're going to get 1 level. If you're regenerating 10 or more, then you get that max of 10 levels. Here's where that gets kind of crazy. For air spells, every time you regenerate runes, you have a 15% chance to restore 1 prayer point per rune generated. Well, the later spells are regenerating 15 runes. So you're just going to get 15 prayer points. For every prayer point, 1 prayer point for every rune generated. For water spells, you're healed for 1 per rune generated. Again, at the end, there's a spell, the water wave or whatever it is. You get 10 water runes and 7 air runes. So if you build into both of these, you're going to get 7 prayer points 15% of the time. And then 100% of the time, when your combat spells regenerate runes, because if you look at the top right here, oh, you actually can't see it because it's behind the chat thing. Give me a second. I'm going to move this back over. Okay, there you guys go. So you can see there's this thing that shows you all the combined stats. And then I'll move this over so you guys can see. I think we'll deal with it like this because I want you guys to be able to chat with each other up there. But so going back to the magic, fire gives you a chance every time you hit, your next spell hit will increase by 1 per rune generated. So when you're using those fire spells, you're using 10 fire runes, you have a chance of hitting for 10. And then when you generate earth runes, it increases your defense level. It's 1 rune generated. Per 1 rune generated, you get another defense level, and it lasts for 30 ticks, which is 18 seconds. So each of these, and then each of these builds in. So for water, this is a really big one. Water spells, they will bounce back at you, healing you for 60% of the damage dealt to your target. And now I talked earlier about how the bow, or the King Black Dragon, King's whatever it was. Oh, I closed that tab. I'm an idiot. Let's go back to that. There we go. There we go. So for Wilderness, the King's Barrage, right? Remember the second one hits for ice, but you can make ice count as water spells, which means that if you have this, every time you hit with your water spell, which is your ice spell, you actually get healed for 60% of what it hits. So you can turn your ranged weapon into a healing weapon, and that's really powerful. You can also turn your ranged weapon if you have a ranged weapon, but then you use prayer. And from what I looked at, you can get a total prayer bonus of 52, right? You have a percent chance to max hit for every one prayer bonus that you have. This chance gets doubled against enemies weak to air spells. So imagine you're basically going to max hit 100% of the time against Barrows because they already have a mage weakness, an air weakness, and then you're going to double it because you have a up to 50% chance, and that chance is doubled when they already have an air weakness. So anything weak to air, you're going to hit double on if you can get that 52 bonus. So that one's really good. This one with fire, the max out for that is you get fire spells to apply a 1 burn and bounce up to 2 nearby targets, and it can max out at 5. But the big thing is it can hit to other targets. This is the one where with the Cerberus, the Fang of the Hound, you can get that to burn and to bounce to other targets because you can use every time it procs, you're gonna get every time you regenerate the runes, it's gonna bounce, and you can do another one with pull, which pulls 6% of your health. We'll talk about that one in a second. It pulls 6% of your health to hit higher damage as well. For Earth, if you want to do a big defense build, Earth spells deal an additional flat damage based on your current defense level. But remember, you can build up your defense level. For every Earth rune that's generated, it builds up your defense level. There's also these little things all around, which is permanent defense level boost. So you can do a defense build, and you can get this up to like 30, 50%. And then this, each spell has an additional flat damage based on your current defense level. Well, if you've got a permanent plus 30 defense level, and you've got, let's say that you only have a plus 20, plus 21, so you have 120 defense levels. Well, that's plus 10 damage, and that's a flat damage. Every time you hit with an earth spell, you hit plus 10 damage just by having a super high or a reasonably high additional defense level. So spells are very powerful. You could go in almost any way with this, and you can kind of put these together. So if you want your water spells, you can switch water spells to earth spells. So maybe you have flat armor and you're doing a bunch of earth spells, and then you want to switch to water spells, and then you cast those and it heals you up. And so you can basically become kind of a tank there. For the melee side, your minimum hit when attacking with a melee weapon is increased by 3. Now this changes and alters in a whole bunch of different ways, but it's really good. So we'll talk about these early ones here. This first one is the Thorns effect. I have looked into building into Thorns in multiple different ways, and I really, really, really like the idea of Thorns. So Thorns, whenever you're attacked, whenever you get a hit splat, even if that hit splat is 0, you are going to be, your enemy will be instantly be hit by 3 melee damage. So whoever hits you instantly gets hit. It's just a recoil, even if you get hit for 0. Okay? And there are other things that affect the way that Thorns works. And we'll talk about those in a second. The other one, melee weapons under 1 kilogram always trigger an additional melee hit using 40% of the base hit from the first one. So basically, your melee weapon, if it's a lightweight weapon, if it's under 1 kilogram, which is quite a few, it basically becomes a twin flame staff. You're going to hit a second time every single time that you hit. The third one here is a melee for heavy weapons. It has a 15% chance to trigger an instant blind bag attack. Blind bag is automatically attack your current target with a random heavy melee weapon in your inventory as though you have it equipped. So you're going to hit, and then it's also going to hit with the other weapon. You can stack this to where it's going to hit with up to 5 weapons, increasing your maximum hit up to 10%. So you can hold a bunch of heavy weapons, and if you do this where you remember there's the what's it called, the relic that allows you to not use your food when you click on it. Well, imagine now you've got a whole bunch of extra inventory slots. So you carry about a bunch of random heavy weapons because now you have the inventory space, and then you can use those to increase your damage. This one here, melee range is doubled whilst using 2-handed weapons. So this one you ultimately want to build into a halberd build, but that's also early game. Imagine you use your first point to do this, where your range is doubled while using 2-handed weapons. Well, now your sulfur blades can hit from farther away. And there's things that you can build into that when you're farther away do more damage and stuff like that. And so you can build that into a whole bunch of other stuff, which I think is really good. We'll go back into this. So thorns, the one that allows you to hit your target back every time they hit you. I'm going to go through this in a little more detail, but that's because I really like it. Whilst you have a shield equipped, you have a 0.1% chance per defense level to reflect all damage back to your attacker. Now, we talked about increasing your defense level beyond 99. You can get like a plus 50%, right? So imagine you have 99 and you've increased it 50%. That means you have a 15% chance to reflect all damage back to your attacker. They hit you, now you get hit, right? All recoil and thorn style effects deal additional damage equal to 1% of your total defense level. So now remember, if you've got 150 total defense level because you've stacked into defense, that means that it's going to hit for 1% of that, which is what, 150, so that's 1.5. Am I right with that? Yeah. So it's going to hit for 1.5, but here's the deal. It's all recoil and thorns effects. So if you have Echo Boots and a Ring of Suffering and Thorns, look at all the damage you're going to hit, because each one of them is going to proc, and you're going to be able to hit back with a ton of damage even though you only got hit once. Where this goes a little crazy is that when Thorns effect is triggered, it always hit twice, dealing 50% of the damage on the second hit. So now you just have a 50% increase in DPS off of that other one. So you have a chance of hitting a crazy amount just because you took damage. And now remember, you don't actually have to take the damage, you just have to get hit. So if you're praying and you're not taking the damage, but you still took the 0 hit splat, they still get hit. Where this becomes really powerful is at the Colosseum. Because I saw builds from last year where somebody went through all 12 waves of the Colosseum and didn't move. They only fought the boss at the end. Well, if you want to get a whole bunch of easy drops, you can build a tank build using Thorns, and then you're good to go. So there's a lot with that you can do. Attacking with a melee weapon or Thorns has a 10% chance to heal you based on the distance between you and your target. 1 tile equals 1 health. Now imagine you do a Thorns build with a halberd. You're 7 tiles away. You smack them, you're 7 tiles away, that's 7 health per tile, like per distance, and has a 10% chance to heal you. So every 10th shot, you get healed for 7 because you're using an ally. Imagine that. So that's crazy, because now you start to heal yourself. You don't have to lean into magic to heal. And imagine you do a whole bunch of thieving that gives you a ring, or the Blood Fury, and you're healing every time you hit, you're getting healed, and every time you get hit, you're healing. So that could be pretty crazy. Melee weapons that are under 1 kilogram or one-handed increase your melee strength by 20% of your current strength level. So you can just get another 20% increase in melee strength. This isn't huge. It's not as huge as it seems when you actually look at the DPS calculators. It's not as huge as it looks. You'd generally be better off doing percent melee damage, or doing, there are other things that could be better, but it's still pretty useful. And if you're going to build into this direction, that's not bad. Special attacks, 20% chance not to consume any energy. Insane. Melee weapons under 1 kilogram attack 1 tick faster. This is what I was talking about with the Cerberus blade, the Fang of the Hound. So it's a 3-tick attack speed, but if you do this, it becomes a 2-tick attack speed. Now you're hitting really fast. You can spec like crazy. You have a chance for your spec not to be used, and every once in a while you're going to be hitting a magic attack that does extra burn damage, and you can make that go crazy because you can make that bounce up to 2 other nearby targets. So you can be standing in a group of people just laying down tons of damage, and it's a small amount of damage, relatively speaking, because it's not a halberd where you're going to hit 100 or something. But it's a smaller amount of damage, but you're hitting constantly. So you can, especially in larger groups, this is going to be great for Slayer. You can just walk into a group of people and just start smacking things down. So I think that's going to be really, really fun. Really fun and cool. Melee strength is increased by 50% of your Worn Prayer bonus. So imagine you're building into prayer so that you can do air spells, and then imagine that you've got your melee built into that as well. So now your strength is increased, and every time you hit with prayer, so I feel like there's some synergy there where you can do air spells and strength bonus and really mess up a target. And that's some relatively kind of later stuff. If you look at the track you need to take to get to that, it's minimum 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're kind of mid game at that point. And that seems like a pretty crazy one. But if you're going to lean into prayer, do it. 35% increase to all styles, and that you can get that across the board. There's a whole bunch of those. For every unique heavy weapon, I showed you guys this, the blind bag one, you get a chance of increasing your max hit by up to 2%, and then it's with a max of 10% because you can do 5 extra weapons, so that's a big one. And then blind bag here as well, for each unique heavy weapon in your inventory, your max hit for blind bag is increased by 2% with a maximum of 10%. So you basically, you're going to be hitting like crazy if you have those in your inventory. 20% of 99 is still 19 to 20, which rounds up your extra melee strength. It does. It is big. There are, on the DPS calculators, there are some other things that would be better, but that's all late game minutia. You know what I mean? Like most people may not get to that. So in terms of an early to mid game thing, that's still very, very, very useful. And I think for most people, that's going to be a good one to build into, especially if you're already building into this thorns and light weapons. It's going to be a good one. So this is the other one. If you go into halberds, this is a really good one. Halberds and ranged weapons can synergize pretty well together. And here's why. So melee range is doubled. So you have a 2 range, it's doubled to 4. Okay? Whenever an attack from at least 2 tiles away with any style, you restore 2% of your special attack energy. So even if you just go get a dragon halberd early game, it could be pretty powerful, right? Because then you're going to get your special attack faster. Okay? Then you're going to go into melee damage, and then you're going to hit your maximum hit when attacking with a melee weapon is increased by 4%, and an additional 4% for every 3 tiles of distance between you and your target. So basically, at this point, it's an 8% increase. But when you go to this one, if your melee range is at 4, at least 4, it's increased to 7. So now it's got 4% plus 4% plus 4%. So you're going to have a 12% addition to that. And all halberds that are 5 ticks or slower basically become a noxious halberd. They all become 5 ticks. So imagine that you have the crystal halberd, and that's your spec weapon. And you're hitting 12% more damage, and you're hitting from 7 tiles away. So that's really good. Attacking with a melee weapon or thorns has that 10% chance of healing you. Now imagine you build into this, you're 7 tiles away, you got protect from range on, and every time you hit, you're basically healing 1. Because it's a 10% chance to heal based off of your distance and your, well, it's going to be like 7.7. But still, you're healing quite a bit, and you can heal off the other thorns damage, which is going to be crazy. So I feel like a halberd thorns build is going to be really good. A halberd with a blade build would be really good. Basically, there's almost no way that you build into melee that's not fantastic. And I feel like even only building up to these levels where you don't do these highest level things, building up kind of decently halfway through these is still very powerful, especially if you have the staff, the Shadow Flame Quadrant, and you want to build kind of halfway up into magic. You have air spells. We'll hop back over to mage real quick just because I mentioned it. Air spells, again, you can deal plus 7% damage for each active prayer you have, and the max that you can put on is like 8 prayers. So imagine you're doing that, and you're getting prayer points back for every time a rune is generated, and you're attacking super fast because you're going, all powered staves go from 3 ticks to 2 ticks. And then you also have the combat spells. This is the one I was actually trying to reference. Attack with combat spells and a spellbook speeds you up by 2 ticks. So now you have that, yeah, it's sped up by 2 ticks. So that 4-tick weapon, or 3-tick weapon, goes to a 1-tick weapon. And you're doing 7% extra damage per prayer, so you're doing 50% extra damage. It becomes pretty insane for you to hit with air. This one here, water spells deal increased damage the higher health percentage you have. So if you have, and you can overheal. And there's other things down here that will allow you to overheal. So for this, for example, where'd it go? Where'd it go? There's so many things to look at. I know there's one here. Okay, this. Healing with demonic pacts overheals you up to 30% of your base hit points level. So if you're healing, and you haven't really been hit yet, and your hit points level goes up, then guess what? You're overhealed, and now your damage goes up. because you're overhealed. So if you can put yourself in a position where you have a bunch of overheal, then your damage goes up. And if you're doing splash spells and you're doing a boatload of damage, you're going to stay pretty high health. So this becomes very good for Slayer mid game. Fire spells cast burn up to 6% of your maximum hit points to increase your damage dealt by double the amount burned for. So especially if you're doing something that splashes with fire, that could be really good. I don't really like that one because I don't like things that take my health away. But if you pair that with air spells and you go back and forth between fire and air spells, you can get your prayer to go up, and then you can kind of heal yourself or do the water with fire. So hit fire lowers your HP, hit water brings your HP right back up. So it can be really good. And then earth spells reduce the damage or reduce the enemy's defense and magic defense levels by 2. So that could be really good. You lower the defense of your target, and then you switch to fire, hit him for a whole bunch. You switch to air, get your prayer built back up, and then you hit for water and heal yourself back up. So you can, and there's enough points to go around to really build into this quite a bit. So let's talk about ranged a little bit. Ranged, you can see how I've kind of skipped over certain things in ranged because there's this way of, so if you go into range at all, there's this way you can kind of build around, and then your defense goes up, 35% attack to all combat styles, 15% accuracy to all combat styles, 30% regenerate runes, ammo, and charges, 5% defense level boost, and then 5% chance to per attack style roll any attack style to roll max accuracy, increased by 5% for each tile distance between you and the target. So there's a 35% chance when you're using a halberd, if you can also spec into this, there's a 35% chance that it'll hit for your max hit. If you can spec into that. If you're standing at 7 tiles away. So now every third hit is a max hit, and if you're built into thorns even a little bit, attacking with melee weapon or thorns has a 10% chance to heal you based on the different distance. So now you have an even higher chance of healing. So you can do a pretty high heal damage off of just that, because then you're healing by what you hit. But you're hitting like crazy because now you have an increased accuracy and you have an increased chance of rolling your max hit. So that could be really good. I've seen people have been wondering if